Locations in the comments as y'all are entering. Put your locations in the comments as y'all are coming in. Locations in the comments. We're going to discuss Candace Owens today because she has resurfaced in the news, and it looks like I talked about this maybe a week or two ago, but it is looking like certain things are occurring here, and I'm going to get into what I think is happening uh, with respect to the realities or the facts, if you will, of what is actually occurring. We're going to get into all of that here today. So as y'all are coming in, put your locations in the comments. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. We're live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Let me check and see what's happening on X. We are live on X. Good morning, X. We are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn and X and Rumble and YouTube is at Dre All Day. If you use any of those apps, just look up at Dre All Day. I'm live on all of those apps, same name. Live on Facebook, /Work on Your Game University. Work on Your Game University for Facebook users. We are live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, and we are live on TikTok at Work on Your Game. So let's see. There's been a ton of conversation over the last couple of days on X specifically, because that is the only social media app that I use to know what's going on current events wise. I do not scroll on TikTok. I do not engage in commentary back and forth on any of these apps. I don't even read the DMs on most of these applications. So the only app that I am actively using when it comes to social media in terms of engaging is X. I do post on every app. Y'all see my posts if you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, etc. But I don't engage in back and forth. I don't read other people's posts. I do not leave comments on other people's pages. So you ever see my picture in the comment on somebody else's shit, it's probably fake. Unless somebody died or somebody had a baby, then maybe I might leave a comment. But other than that, I ain't commenting on nobody's shit. So X is the only place where I do actually comment on other people's stuff, even if I don't know them. And I will engage and I will go back and forth with people on certain subjects, agreeing or disagreeing. So on X, there's been a ton of conversation about Candace Owens and what's been going on. That's what we're going to talk about here today. Put your locations in the comments, folks. Locations in the comments, and I'll shout a few people out. And then we will get to this in a moment. So let me see. Candace Owens seems to have a lot of enemies out there. That's one thing I will say. She seems to have a lot of enemies. There's a lot of people who do not like Candace Owens. Now, why that is, we're going to talk about. Give me your locations in the comments. Locations in the comments. Locations in the comments. And let's see. I'm just going to look up what's trending about Candace Owens right now. So if you type in the letter CA, Candace Owens is the first thing that comes up. That's how much she's trending right now. And let's see. Yeah, it's a lot going on. So let me shout a few people out before we get into this, because there's a lot that needs to be talked about here today. I talked about this a little bit last week, but there's more that needs to be discussed. So Annie AFF, good morning, checking in from Kentucky. Nikki from Connecticut, good morning. 140.6 Walnut Creek, California. Sylvia B, thank you for the share. Ron Johnson, Lima, Ohio. Rodney Hayes from Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Brooklyn. Linda Gale, good morning from St. Louis. Hope I have a Thanksgiving holiday. I think you mean a great Thanksgiving. Thank you. I appreciate it. You too. Andrea Levitt, thank you for the heart early. Jay Rocker, good morning. From Delaware, driving to Tennessee. Shout out to the road trippers out there. Shout out to the people getting on the road. Andrea Levitt, Tupin, good morning from Massachusetts. Good morning. Marsha Marsha from Chesapeake, VA. Sarah L. from Naples, Florida. Shout out to Naples. Naples is a beautiful place. Very clean. Tez NY, good morning. Be More Girl said, do I think she's talking too much? Well, right now she's not talking at all. She actually didn't put out any new shows this week. She says she's off the air this week. So she's not talking at all. Tez NY said, you've been waiting for this topic. This is like the third time we talked about this since the lawsuit came out. But I'm glad you're here because we are going to talk about it here today. Happiness Now, good morning from ATL. Shout out to Atlanta. Tez checking in from Virginia. Mary M said, nice suit, looking sharp this morning. Hello from San Antonio. Well, I appreciate it, Mari. Don't I look sharp every day? Is this the only day I've looked sharp? Well, how did I look yesterday? Maybe you weren't here. Leah, good morning. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Be More Girl said, Candace Owens for president. And I don't think she's going to go that far. But she is building up quite an audience right now with what she's been doing. And there's a lot of conversation about it. Miles Adamit from Detroit, Michigan. Chris Thomas Sports, Baltimore is in the room. Shout out to Baltimore. Backwoods Jim said, James Gray from Kabul, Missouri. I've never heard of that place, but shout out to Kabul, Missouri. Leah checking in from South Georgia. Shout out to South Georgia. Scott Young, South Carolina. I have heard of that place. Tesney said, LOL, I think it's the black. Is this some people like the black? I'm about to get another black suit, actually. I'm going to get another black suit maybe in December. December is a couple days away. Jay Rocket said, y'all was on yesterday. Yes, what happened is I started very late. I started like an hour late yesterday. But today we're back closer to the proper time. So any of you missed me yesterday, I don't blame you. I started like an hour late, so most of you might have thought I didn't go live. Katie said, good morning, love and hugs from Illinois today. Appreciate you, Katie. Love and hugs back to you. So Candace Owens is a topic here today. For those of you who do not know, I think most of you know who Candace Owens is. She is a black female. I believe she's from Connecticut originally. She's now based in Tennessee. She's married to some dude from England, some white guy from England. I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name. Doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. She has about 4 kids with this guy. And Candace she was raised liberal. She became conservative. She is clearly a very staunch conservative, very strongly on the political right. She was a big supporter of Donald Trump. She doesn't quite support Donald Trump as much anymore. She disagrees with things about him. She has some negative things to say about Israel. She's had some negative things to say about the Charlie Kirk death investigation and what actually happened versus what didn't happen. And none of those is the topic here today. All right. The topic here today with regards to Candace Owens is that, and she used to work at PragerU. Then she used to with Dennis Prager. Then she used to work at the Daily Wire. That was the company most known with Ben Shapiro. And she left both of those places, got fired, I believe, from Daily Wire. Now she's independent. She has her own podcast. I believe it's just called Candace or the Candace Owens Show, something like that. It's a very popular podcast. She's doing over 1 million views every episode of the show. And she has some detractors. Actually, she has a lot of detractors. You get 1 million views on anything you put on social media, there's going to be a bunch of people who have something negative to say about it, whether they're trolling, whether they actually believe it, whether other people buy into it or not. You get 1 million views on anything you put on the internet, there's going to be blowback. Trust me, I know. I don't have as many million view piece of content as she does, but I have enough to know that this is what happens. Doesn't matter what the subject is. Now, Candace Owens, about how long ago was this? Maybe last year or early this year. She did a series called Becoming Brigitte. And Becoming Brigitte focuses on a woman, quote unquote, by name of Brigitte Macron. Those of you who don't know who Brigitte Macron is, I understand if you're an American and you're focused on, as Donald Trump says, America first, or at least as he campaigned America first. Brigitte Macron is the second lady of the country known as France. She is the wife of the president of France. His name is Emmanuel Macron. She is his wife. Now, the issue with Brigitte, and the reason why this series is called Becoming Brigitte, is because Candace Owens, along with many others, she's not the only person with this idea, has the belief, or the theory, whatever you want to call it, that Brigitte Macron is not actually a woman. Brigitte Macron is actually a man posing / living as a woman. Candace did a series called Becoming Brigitte on her podcast, which also goes to YouTube, Spotify, et cetera, basically laying out her argument for why she believed Brigitte is a man. Now, she said that her and her team sent letters over to the Macron family asking for certain information about Brigitte to basically verify that Brigitte was actually born a woman, not a man, and that the Macron family didn't really send back satisfactory information on the subject. They sent something back, but what they sent back, Candace said, this is some nonsense. I'm not buying this as proof that Brigitte is actually a woman and not a man. And if y'all don't provide me the information, I'm going to go live with my series claiming that you, Brigitte, is a man, not a woman. And the Macron family said, this is the proof. And Candace said, this is not sufficient proof. She went out and did the series. I don't know how long it was, maybe 10-part series. If you didn't listen to it or watch it, I suggest you do. It's a very interesting series. I do listen to Candace Owens stuff. So what happened is, whenever the series ended, the Macron family was pretty pissed off about it. And the Macron family filed a lawsuit against Candace Owens. They filed a defamation lawsuit in the United States, in the state of Delaware, against Candace Owens. Even though they are in France, they filed a lawsuit against Candace Owens. Now, let's just pause right there. Let me give you my theory and my opinion on the lawsuit being filed. This was a bad idea by the Macron family. Even if they win, it was a bad idea by the Macron family for several reasons. Number one is the Streisand effect. Those who don't know what the Streisand effect is a woman named Barbara Streisand. I'm not sure if she's still alive or not, but it's named after her. The Streisand effect is, let me tell you what happened. What happened is there was some photos that were posted publicly years ago. This is over 20 years ago, of people taking photos of like land in California. And the land being photographed happened to include a picture, an aerial photo of Barbara Streisand's house. And Barbara Streisand found out about the photo and saw that her house was in the photo. She didn't like that her house was in the photo. So Barbara Streisand goes and starts making all this noise about getting this photo removed because she didn't like the fact that her house was in this photo that might get distributed publicly, even though most people had no idea it was Barbara Streisand's house. Most people weren't paying attention to the photo. Most people didn't even know this was happening. But when Barbara Streisand, as popular as she was at the time, started making noise about it, then she got everybody noticing this photo. Everybody was talking about it. And it basically went viral before there was such a thing as going viral. And the effect of this whole situation got labeled the Streisand effect because it's what's happened. What happens when someone brings attention to a thing that had they not brought attention to it, it would have disappeared. But now everybody's paying attention to it because you made it a news item. That's the Streisand effect. Barbara Streisand making all that noise about her house being in that photo got everybody to notice the photo when before that, nobody gave a damn about the photo. The Macron family has had people suspecting that Brigitte Macron is a man for years. There was a man in France, a journalist in France, who wrote a book about Brigitte Macron is a man years ago. In France, he wrote the book. They never sued this guy, not for defamation, at least. They did come after him, but they didn't get him for defamation. Now, Candace Owens is coming out and basically doing a video version of the same investigation. And now they're trying to sue Candace Owens for defamation, basically to shut her up and bankrupt her for going against them and saying the things that she said. Basically the same thing they did to Alex Jones over the Sandy Hook. They're trying to do to Candace Owens over this. Of course, different circumstances. I, first of all, don't think this is a good idea by the French leadership, by Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron. The reason why this is not a good idea is because of the Streisand effect. Right now, you got a bunch of people paying attention to the Macron family in America who otherwise didn't give a damn about them even after Candace's series. She did a 10-part series talking about, I believe this woman's a man, and her fans saw it. I watched Candace Owens stuff. I listened to it. I heard it. I said, okay, that's interesting. Maybe the first lady of France is actually a man. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But based on Candace's theories, it sounds pretty convincing that it is a man. And the Macron family seems to be pretty tight about letting any information out about this. And they probably don't want Candace talking about this. Okay, it was funny. It was entertaining. I don't really give a damn. All right, let's say that is a man or is not a man, or what does it really matter? I mean, it's not like you're solving a crime here. The Macron family should have just let this go. They should have just said nothing. They should have just let the series blow over, because when it ended, again, only Candace's fans cared about it. Most people in America don't give a damn about the president of France. Most people can't even name the president of France. Let alone can you name the president of France's wife. And whether that person is a man or not, again, who the hell cares? Because the Macrons made a news item out of this by suing Candace Owens, now everybody's talking about it. Now it's become a news item, and everyone's talking about it because Candace Owens keeps getting all this attention because, first of all, the Charlie Kirk thing got a bunch of people paying attention to her. Then this lawsuit now has resurfaced. People are talking about it again. This lawsuit got filed months ago. I talked about this when the lawsuit got filed. This is probably back in the spring of this year. So it's what's the word? The news item has gotten bigger again. The flames have been rekindled here because Candace Owens recently. Let me see if I can find this post that Candace Owens posted. Now, Candace Owens, she has 7.4 million followers on X. And what did she say? She said, let me see if I can find the actual post that she put up. She put this up about 5-6 days ago. Candace Owens put up this post, and she said, here it is. 4 days ago, she put up a post that got 43 million views and 100,000 retweets and 200,000 likes, 25,000 comments. I'm going to read this post. It came out 4 days ago. Candace Owens posted this on X 4 days ago. I'm going to read this post because it is the frame around which we will be having our discussion today. Urgent. This is Candace Owens. All capital letters, urgent. Now this is regular capitalization. She says, 2 days ago, I was contacted by a high-ranking employee of the French government. After determining this person's position in proximity to the French couple, that's the Macron family, Emmanuel and Brigitte, he's the president, she's the first lady. After determining this person's position in proximity to the French couple, I have deemed the information they gave me to be credible enough to share publicly in the event that something happens. In short, this person claims, this is her source in the French government, this person claims that the Macrons have executed upon and paid for my assassination. This is Candace Owens. That the Macrons have paid money to get Candace Owens offed. That's what she's saying. And then she goes and says right after that, yes, you read that correctly. More specifically, that the green light, those who don't understand the language, green light means is a go on that person. Go get them, take their head off, like the mafia would do. The green light. The green light was given to a small team in National Gendarmerie Intervention Group. I don't know who that is, but whoever they are. I am told there's one Israeli that is on this assassination squad, and the plans were formalized. Now, she brought Israel into the conversation. All right, continuing. Again, this person provided concrete proof that they are all well placed within the French government apparatus. Further to this point, here's where the plot thickens. This person claims that Charlie Kirk's assassin, all right, now this is where she made it a bigger story. Charlie Kirk's assassin trained with the French Legion 13th Brigade with multi-state involvement. So now she's saying, I'm going to break it all down in a moment. Let me continue reading. Let me read that sentence one more time. This person claims that Charlie Kirk's assassin trained with the French Legion 13th Brigade with multi-state involvement. Journalist Xavier Poussard, he's the one who wrote the book about Brigitte years ago, and they never sued him for defamation. This guy, he wrote a book in France about this very thing that Candace talked about. They didn't sue him for defamation. Anyway, journalist Xavier Poussard's life is also at risk. So they think that the French are trying to take him out too. This is deadly serious. The head of state of France apparently wants us both dead. The head of state of France is Emmanuel Macron. That's the man. We know he's a man married to Brigitte, who Candace thinks is a man. The head of state of France apparently wants us both dead and has authorized professional units to carry this out. I ask that every person retweet and share this. I personally retweeted this when I saw it. It has 100,000 retweets, so a bunch of other people did as well. I do not know who in the American government can be trusted, since this source, claims that our leaders are aware. Remember, Candace Owens is not cool with Donald Trump that much anymore. But I have more specific information which is definitely verifiable should they care to reach out to me. To the brave official in France who did this because they were so moved by the evil of Charlie's public execution to risk their own life, may God bless you, truly. Let all be revealed. And again, this is posted on the 22nd, 4 days ago. It has 43 million views on X since she posted this. And a bunch of people have been talking about it, obviously, for the last 4 days. And Candace has retweeted some people. Some person said, I just Googled French Secret Intelligence Service assassinations and the results are freaking wild. So people are finding things that there are some French secret agents who are hired for contract killings. And Candace believes she is part of this group. Xavier Poussard, he's the one who wrote the book about Brigitte. He wrote a book literally called Becoming Brigitte. So Candace Owens basically took everything he did in France and she brought it to America and made a podcast out of it. He has 107,000 followers on X. I'm going to follow him right now, as a matter of fact. And he said, This situation is extremely serious. The head of the French state apparently wishes death on Candace Owens and Xavier Poussard and has mandated specialized units to achieve it. And a bunch of people are, again, talking about this. And Candace says further, 2 days ago, she said the following. I am told that payments for assassinations are running through the Club des Saints in France. This means there is a paper trail, and I encourage the patriots of France to do what you can to uncover it. I would again like to stress that there was a French female assassin, but also a male Israeli assassin that was selected to kill me. These are joint state operations. This is what Candace is saying. So she has roped in. First of all, she took the Macrons, who she already went at with the Becoming Brigitte series, and they got mad at her because of that. Now she's roping in Israel and saying that someone from that country is one of the trained assassins. So she brought them into the conversation, which is kicking the hornet's nest. It's kicking the hornet's nest. She didn't touch the hornet's nest. She kicked it over. So now she kicked over the hornet's nest by bringing them into the conversation, talking about they are involved in a plot to take her life. And they're saying that person, whoever this person is from that country, was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where the person who was arrested for assassinating Charlie Kirk was some white kid in America. So Candace Owens has not only kicked over the hornet's nest, she has jumped up and down on it, stomped it, and done, I don't know, what you can do to annoy hornets besides kicking over their nest. She did all of that. And that's what happened right now. So she got the Charlie Kirk people mad at her. The people who don't like her arguments about Charlie Kirk, theories about Charlie Kirk, they're mad at her. She got Israel mad at her and all the supporters of Israel mad at her. She has the Macron family and all the supporters of that mad at her. On top of the fact that a bunch of MAGA people don't like her anymore because she went against Donald Trump. On top of the fact that that other kid, NF, who lives in Chicago, his fans, he got a lot of fans. They don't like her. On top of the fact that a lot of people just don't like her because she's a black person who's a conservative, who's very articulate and has been very outspoken about her positions over the years. So a bunch of people are going against Candace Owens right now. So, and she has continued to stir the pot with the things that she's saying. Right, I'm not saying that she's innocent of this. She likes to stir the pot. She is pretty good at stirring the pot. She's pretty good with her, as we say, the mouthpiece. And she has earned all this attention that she's getting right now, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. Let me continue. Let me see what else she said. She said 2 days ago also, it is not a coincidence that the French legionnaires were in the United States training with our Marines for 3 weeks. When those 3 weeks ended in California, another military training exercise began alongside civilians at Camp Riley in Minnesota. French foreign legionnaires were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. They were not the only ones, but they were involved. So Candace Owens is kind of mixing this web of theories all together into one big story and has brought a firestorm of attention to Candace Owens, which again is why I'm using it to talk here today. And she retweeted a few people, but I'm not reading everything that she has retweeted. And this guy named Pavel Durov. I don't know Pavel. He has 2.6 million followers on X. But I do not know. Oh, he's the CEO of Telegram. Pavel Durov. Y'all, any of you use Telegram? So this is what he said. He said, after reviewing everything Charlie Kirk has ever said about Macron's France, I find Candace's info about French involvement in his death entirely plausible. This is the CEO of Telegram saying this. Charlie even called for a 300% tariffs on France until the charges against me were dropped. So this is another thing that they're saying. And Charlie Kirk said this in August of 2024. This is Charlie Kirk talking. I'm reading from his Twitter right here. President Trump should announce plans for a 300% tariff on all French wine unless all charges are dropped on Pavel Durov immediately. If Europe is going to imprison CEOs of platforms where free speech thrives, there should be stiff and painful consequences. So there's a whole web of information here. Pavel says the following. Well-connected people have told me that the French intelligence services are not exactly unknown for assassinations of points supported by public sources. And y'all can go look on Candace's timeline for more of this stuff. Candace has another post where she says, I got to read what she's saying because this is the topic here today. She said this 2 days ago also. I have informed people in the federal government and the White House of the France and Israeli assassination plot and am willing to provide full details as well as the name of the assassins and international accounts in France, and Canada through which money was exchanged. So Candace is claiming she has this information and that she'll give it to the government if they ask for it. Beyond that, I have shared more information with the public regarding the Brigitte story I was investigating at the time of Charlie's assassination. This is all available on my Instagram stories. Thank you all for reaching out and praying for my family. So Candace says she put all this information on Instagram story 2 days ago, so the story has expired by now. So whatever. Now, then she says the following. She said this yesterday. When everything is said and done and the public learns that the Macron allegedly moved $1.5 million from my assassination, how will the world respond? That's what she said a day ago. And here's what Milo Yiannopoulos said. Y'all know Milo? He said the following. People don't realize, this is all on Candace's timeline. She retweeted this. People don't realize what France is. Some 15 countries in Africa remain prisoners of the colonial/CFA franc and pay a chunk of income to Paris every year. When a Western country wants to do something diabolical or sadistic or illegal, such as torture or murder, it's France that they call. This is Milo talking. So a lot of people are coming out in support of her. And then, of course, you have people coming out against her. We're going to get to them in a minute. Then she retweeted that when everything is said and done and the Macrons tried to spend $1.5 million to get me. Then she says the following yesterday. When did she say this? The 24th. So that was 2 days ago. She said this at 8 o'clock at night. We cannot live in a world where governments collude to protect Jeff Epstein and to murder Charlie Kirk. This doesn't work. We elect rulers who stay silent or choose to look the other way when children are being abused because of money or cowardice. This no longer works. So Candace is making some very strong allegations here that a government or governments, plural, colluded to protect Epstein and to take out Charlie Kirk. How many of you agree with both of those claims? Give me a yes or a no in the comments. Do you agree with both? That governments, plural, with an S on the end, they colluded to protect Jeff Epstein and to take out Charlie Kirk. How many of you agree with both? Yes or neither or only one? Put no. And Marky Mark said possibly. Yes, it's pretty much where we're at, possibly. So I'm getting a lot of yeses. I'm getting a few no's as well. It looks like about 60-40 yes to no. And this is what Candace Owens is saying. And she has a lot of people who are listening to her. Candace Owens said the following. She said something else. Said this yesterday morning, almost 24 hours ago. Here's what Candace said. Our show will be off air this week. So Candace is not publishing this week. As an update, both the White House and our counterterrorism agencies have confirmed receipt of what I publicly reported. Emmanuel Macron attempted to organize my assassination per a source close to the first couple. So Candace is saying here, she said this yesterday morning, that the White House and counterterrorism confirmed that they heard what she claimed. She didn't say they confirmed that it happened. She's saying that they confirmed that they heard it, that they got the information from Candace, that she believes the Macron family is trying to organize her assassination. Now, she says also, I will again state that the French legionnaires were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, but they did not act alone. She said they're involved. She didn't say they pulled the trigger. She said they were involved. But there was more than one entity involved. So what she has strongly stated and asserted for months now is that the guy who is under arrest and charged with the shooting of Charlie Kirk is not the shooter. She said this guy was not the shooter, the guy who got arrested. Shooter was somebody else. It might not have been even the guy who was on the roof. And this guy, they don't know who this guy is, but he was not the guy. The guy, Tyler Robinson, who's right now incarcerated under suspicion of murder of Charlie Kirk. She has asserted that that's not the guy, that this was much bigger and a much more organized operation, just some random kid with a gun. Now, for all of you who doubted my claims, I'm continuing to read her posts. You can now look to the President of the United States, that would be Mr. Donald Trump, and our intelligence communities to issue a statement to confirm whether I am telling the truth. I don't know if they've issued a statement since then, but this got 13 million views yesterday morning. Now, the officer Brandon Tatum, he says he's seen the evidence regarding the assassination threat on Candace Owens, and he is now convinced and believes there needs to be serious consequences for the French government. That's what Brandon Tatum is saying. I can't play this because TikTok will give me a warning if I play somebody else's stuff. But there's a video of Brandon Tatum. Y'all know him. His name on X is the Officer Tatum. He said he's seen the evidence and that he is convinced that there's something happening here. Oh, Candace Owens just posted 29 minutes ago. Did we want to know what she said? She said the following. Has the press done its part and asked the White House and Élysée Palace, that's the people over in France, whether there were any French legionnaires on the ground at UVU, that's the school where Charlie Kirk got shot, on September 10th? So she's throwing this out there. This is what Candace is pretty good at doing. She's pretty good at throwing things out there, letting people pick at the bait that she's throwing out there. She's alluding here. She is implying that the French were in Utah. Is that where Charlie Kirk got shot? Was it Utah? That the French were in Utah when Charlie Kirk got shot on September 10th. She says, seems like a pretty straightforward thing to confirm or deny. Then she follows up by saying, if they have the audacity to lie on record, it will be good for humanity. We need to see how deep this thing goes. That's the last thing that she posted. That's the last thing Candace posted, again, to her 7.4 million followers on X. And that is the topic here today. So as you can see, Candace is weaving a big web here, going back to this lawsuit, that the Macron family has against her. Now, Candace Owens is facing a multi-front crisis here. So she's got a bunch of people mad at her over the Charlie Kirk things that she's been throwing out. There's no lawsuit involved in that. That's not legality. It's just people not liking her. Then she's been attacking Israel. So there's a bunch of people who really don't like her for that. Then she's got the Macron thing, and there is a lawsuit involved, which is ostensibly the baseline from which we're going to be talking here today. Then she just got all the people who just don't like her just because. So right now she has a 22-count defamation lawsuit coming from Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron over in France. And again, that lawsuit is filed in the United States. So they're going by U.S. law. And she has a claim that they ordered a 1.5 million assassination plot against her. Now, again, she says she has the evidence. She hasn't put the evidence out publicly, but she says she has it privately and that other people have seen it. So this is legal danger, conspiracy. And again, conspiracy can be true. Conspiracies can be true. Just because something's labeled a conspiracy does not mean it's a lie. And political backlash that now dominates this entire story about Candace Owens. So that's the frame from which we're going to have our discussion here today. Everybody got it? Let me introduce myself. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. Former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our focus these days is helping you develop what we call the power presence. You can see that manual right there. You get that when you're a member of our program. Power presence is all about taking the discipline, the confidence, the structure, the stuff you do in quiet, the aura, the energy, the power, and bringing it all into one signal that we call presence. When your presence is strong, you close more deals. People say yes to you. People remember you without you saying a word. And when your presence is weak, you don't close deals. Nobody wants to talk to you. You feel like you're completely invisible, even though you're standing in the middle of the room. Any of you has ever felt like that? You know what I'm talking about. Any of you ever felt the other way? You also know what I'm talking about. Or have you ever seen anyone who fit either of those descriptions? You know what I'm talking about. You need to develop this presence because this presence constitutes 85% of all communication. Go to the link in my profile. You can learn more about that. Now, let's get into these points. Now, Candace Owens, this lawsuit, first of all, let's go back to the lawsuit. She's being sued in the state of Delaware for defamation, false light, and invasion of privacy tied to that Becoming Brigitte podcast. Here's what I got to say about the Macrons. I already told you this earlier. This is the Streisand effect. They should have let this go. If they really think that Candace is dumb, or even if they think that she's lying, they shouldn't have said anything. Because as soon as they filed this lawsuit, understand this guy's the president. It's like Donald Trump filing a lawsuit against a podcaster in Argentina. That sounds crazy. All right, how much damage can a podcaster in another country do to you when you're the president in a country that's all the way over there? They filed a lawsuit against Candace Owens, a podcaster, an influencer, whatever you want to call her. She ain't working in the government. Essentially, you call her a podcaster. She's a podcaster in America talking about the wife of the president of France, and the president of France and his wife filed a lawsuit against her in America. How crazy is that? This is the Streisand effect. That was stupid by the French. This was a dumb thing for them to do. Even if they win, it was a dumb thing for them to do. So let's say they win. They sue Candace for $10 billion and they wipe her out. Let's say they do that. Then what? Everybody's still going to be wondering, is that a man or a woman? They're not solving the problem. The actual problem is people are wondering, is that a man or a woman? Suing Candace Owens is not going to end that conversation. Not going to stop people like me from talking about it. They can't sue everybody. So what are they doing? This is a very bad idea by the French president, and I blame the man. Let's assume that Emmanuel is the only man in the relationship. Let's just give, for the benefit of the doubt, let's just assume he's the only man in the relationship. Why did he allow this to happen? Why would you go sue somebody and draw all this attention to it? Somebody had to have told them. If I was consulting them, I would say, you're better off just letting this go. You can try to quietly, behind the scenes, shut Candace down and shut her up. And if you can't do that, then just let it go, ignore it. It will go away. Most things go away. Things like this go away if you just ignore them. News cycles turn over very quickly. Even though Candace Owens did a 10-part series on this and it probably got millions of views, the only views were those millions. There are 8 billion people on the planet. most people don't give a damn, or they already have formed an opinion about whether Brigitte Macron is a man or a woman. And again, this is not a crime. If Brigitte Macron is actually a man, it's not a crime. If Brigitte Macron is not a man, that's also not a crime. They could have just let this go and it slowly would have just went away and everyone would have moved on to the next news item. These idiots filed a lawsuit. Now everybody's going to be talking about this until the lawsuit is completed. So this claims that she ran a year-long profit-driven campaign spreading false statements about Brigitte Macron's identity. Now, this is we'll get to that in a second. Now, Candace's central allegation that Brigitte Macron is secretly Jean-Michel Trogneux, which is one of her family members, basically became her brother. Some say that this is fully debunked. I disagree. I don't think this is debunked. The thing these days is people like to throw out these terms. Debunked. You throw out something, they say, well, that's already been debunked. No, it hasn't. Calling something debunked just because you don't want to hear it does not mean it is actually, in fact, debunked. And the French say, well, we debunked it because we proved this and we sent this photo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, they did not prove it. I listened to the entire Candace series. They did not prove it. French records dating back to 1953, according to those who claim it was debunked. School photos, marriage documents, and testimony from her actual brother prove that Brigitte Macron has always been female. That is not proof. This is what people say. That they have records back to 1953, pay attention, photos from school, marriage documents, and testimony from her brother. They all prove that she's female. None of these is proof. These are all evidence. They're not proof. Difference between evidence and proof. Evidence are things that could lead to a certain conclusion. Proof is absolute that this conclusion is the conclusion and there's no other way of looking at it. That's proof. There's a difference between evidence and proof. These are all evidence. They're not proof. And secondly, when you're the head of the state of a country, let me ask you all a question. Give me a yes or no of this. When you're the head of a country, a president of any country in the world, could you make a couple phone calls and produce school records, school photos, marriage documents, and get your brother to say pretty much what you want your brother to say, as long as y'all got a good relationship? If you're the head of a country, could you do that? Could you make that happen? If I was the president of the United States, I guarantee you I can come up with some records that could say I was born in a different place than I was actually born. Guarantee I can get some photos made. AI is a hell of a tool. I guarantee you I can come up with some marriage documents to say I was married to whoever. And I can get somebody in my family or somebody I know to give testimony to say basically whatever I tell them to say. Because I got the resources to make all of those things happen. I'm not saying that the Macrons are lying. But I'm also saying none of this proves that they're telling the truth. Okay, so you produce some documents. Okay. And that means that we got to believe it? No. Producing documents in 2025 is not enough information. And the Macrons know this, which is why I don't know about the 1.5 million. I haven't seen the information. Candace didn't put it out publicly. But do I believe the Macrons are trying to shut Candace the hell up for one way or another? Absolutely. We know they are because they filed a lawsuit. That's proof that they're trying to shut her up. They filed a lawsuit. That's the proof. Now, why they want to shut her up, we don't know yet. But we have a lot of evidence as to why. Here's what I think. I think the Macron family does not want this to get settled, i.e. they don't want it to be settled whether Brigitte is a man or a woman. Now, why would a woman married to a man not want it to get settled whether she's a man or a woman? You tell me. And why are they filing a lawsuit to shut Candace up from talking about this? You tell me. Any women who are out there right now, someone just started podcasting. If Candace Owens started podcasting and saying that you're not actually a woman, what would you do? Would you file a lawsuit against Candace? You might, because you might be able to get some money off her for saying dumb stuff. But also, you could just prove that you're a woman and it would pretty much be over. Again, this is the head of the state in France. They don't need money from Candace Owens. They don't need Candace Owens' money. Why are they suing Candace Owens? You are the president of France. This dude has access to money. More money than Candace Owens probably even has. Why are you suing Candace Owens? It's not for the money. They're not doing this for money. If they win, they will get money. That's the damages. That's a way civil suits work, is that you lose a civil suit, you pay money. You lose a criminal case, you might go to jail. Civil suit is just money. Lawsuit is a civil suit. Why are they doing this? What are you trying to get out of this? They're trying to shut up Candace Owens. Now, again, why do they care about shutting up Candace Owens? She is a podcaster living in Tennessee in America. You're the president of France. You're trying to shut up a podcaster in America? Why? This lends credence. This is not proof. Please catch my words. This lends credence, i.e. it is evidence that this might connect to a bigger plot, because I don't think this is a big enough thing, or it matters enough, or it would matter enough to the president of France to try to shut up a podcaster in America, no matter what the podcaster was saying. That this may be a bigger plot, that the French president, because their names got mentioned, Candace did mention their names, that they decided, okay, now in conjunction with this government and these people and this entity and that entity, well, we all got a reason to shut Candace up. Let's all work together to shut her the hell up. And we all have a vested interest in her shutting the hell up. And when she throws out the U.S. government, she throws out Israel, she throws out France. Now they all have intertwined reasons for this. And is this a conspiracy? Yes, it is. Now, is this a conspiracy theory, which most people they use it as a pejorative to say somebody's just making up some nonsense to get attention? Or is it a conspiracy that is a fact? A conspiracy is actually truth, conspiracy truth. We don't know yet. I think we're going to find out. Is this a conspiracy theory or a conspiracy truth? I think we're going to find out. What I will say is that it looks very, very fishy that the president of France is filing a lawsuit against a podcaster in America because the podcaster in America is talking about your wife, regardless of what they said. Again, this guy wrote a book saying Brigitte is not a woman. In France, years ago, they never sued the guy for defamation. Now they're suing Candace Owens for defamation. And they said they provided evidence and proof that she's a woman. No, they have not. Now, the Macrons have produced, according to some, overwhelming evidence, including birth announcements. Again, we already talked about this. If you're the head of state, you can create a birth announcement. Pregnancy photos. This is what Candace has said over and over again. Where's the pregnancy photos? What the Macrons have said in their lawsuit. They put the lawsuit out publicly, so y'all can read the filing if you want to. They said that they sent Candace Owens pregnancy photos, allegedly. School records, allegedly, and family affidavits. Their 219-page complaint. That's how long the lawsuit is. So if you want to read the lawsuit, it's 219 pages. Okay, it demonstrates, according to them, that Candace Owens ignored direct proof before publishing. So I saw a lot of people talking about this on X yesterday, and they're framing this in a completely inaccurate way. So let me see where it was. So someone was posting, actually several people had posted. Where is this? So this woman, no, not that. So there's a woman on here trying to say Candace gets her followers are fake. Hey, maybe they are, but really, who cares? So this guy named Insurrection Barbie, or maybe this is a woman, who knows? It's not a real person. They got 1 million followers on X. Insurrection Barbie. They posted a pretty long post. Let me read this because this is important for all of you to understand, because I gave a response to this that got a lot of response. So Insurrection Barbie says, I finally read the full complaint against Candace Owens. Fascinating stuff. So this person claims they read the 219-page complaint against Candace Owens. I am dubious that they read this complaint. I think maybe they filed it into some AI software and got the highlights, but maybe they did read it. Maybe they read the 219 pages. Maybe they did. Here's what it says. This is their post on X. The complaint against Candace Owens is far more serious than most people realize. All right, listen to how they're laying the emotional trap for you all. Pay attention. Notice the language tools being used in this post that I'm going to read. They're laying an emotional trap. The complaint is far more serious than most people realize. It lays out a methodical, well-documented pattern showing that Owens did not just repeat friends' rumors. She packaged them, monetized them, and built an entire revenue engine on claims the Macrons insist are provably false. So you see how this is, just reading this first paragraph here. First few sentences. What does this sound like? Sounds like somebody who clearly either doesn't like Candace and or is weaponized for whatever reason to make Candace look bad, coming out with this. They're framing this in a way. I've told you many times, politics is all about optics, and when it comes to verbal back and forth, it's all about framing. Whoever controls the frame controls the conversation. So this person is framing this that Candace is just doing some very malicious, bad stuff, even though she had the right information. By detailing the podcast, subscription funnels, merchandise pushes, and her continued promotion of the story after multiple legal warnings, the filing positions Owens not as a commentator, but as a creator of deliberate, profit-driven disinformation campaign. This is what they're saying in terms of how they read the lawsuit. This is not actually any kind of breakthrough information. This sentence that I just read is a bunch of no shit Sherlock. That's the reason why they filed a lawsuit. You file a lawsuit because you're trying to win damages, i.e. money, from somebody for having done something that you think is wrong based on a lie. That is literally what a defamation lawsuit is. So this sentence right here is actually a whole bunch of nothing. But people who don't understand it and can't read between the lines might be fooled by this. Now, continuing. That distinction is devastating. Notice the emotional language. That distinction is devastating because it moves the case out of the realm of protected opinion and into clear factual defamation territory where the First Amendment offers her far less shelter. This sentence is also a whole bunch of no shit Sherlock nonsense. If a lawsuit gets filed, we already know that it's not just First Amendment shelter, or at least they are claiming that it's not. And they're saying it moves it out of the realm of protected opinion into clear factual defamation territory. That's the reason why they filed a lawsuit. It's a defamation lawsuit. So what this person is saying here is just a whole bunch of words that mean absolutely nothing. We know it's a lawsuit. It's a defamation lawsuit. It got filed 6, 7, 8 months ago. And now you're explaining to us that it could be factual defamation territory. Of course it is. That's the reason, again, it's a defamation lawsuit. So this person is trying to sound smart while saying a whole bunch of nothing. But let me continue. They're not done. Again, this is a person called Insurrection Barbie on X. They say legally, this puts the Macrones in a strong position. That is false. It does not put them in a strong position. All it does is put you in a position of being the plaintiff, and it puts Owens in the position of being the defendant. Neither one of them is in a strong position because they still have to go to court and prove it. Nobody's in a strong position. This is false. Now, as public figures, they must prove, open quote, actual malice, close quote. That is true. They must prove that. But now here they are mitigating that. The complaint is crafted to show exactly that. Owens was told her claims were false, knew the allegations had been debunked, and escalated them anyway. Okay, now let me give my commentary on that. They say the complaint is crafted to show exactly that. Any of you know anything about the legal system, you know anything about lawsuits, that when a lawsuit is filed, the lawyers of the plaintiffs, that's the Macrones in this case, they write the entire lawsuit filing. In other words, they file it in such a way, and then they put it out publicly so to look like their client, the plaintiff, is completely innocent, has done nothing wrong, and they're just simply being defamed by this person who is maliciously trying to come after them in some way, somehow, trying to make them look bad, either to make money or just to make them look bad because they're trying to smear the person's name. It's 100% written by the Macrones lawyers. So when a lawsuit is written by your lawyer, it should make you look, it should have you smell like roses and make your opponent look like the scum of the earth. That is the design of the lawsuit. That's the reason why you hire a lawyer. If your lawyer is any good and they file a lawsuit, it should have this effect. Problem is, the other side has a lawyer too. Candace Owens' lawyer hasn't made a public statement yet. So if all you're reading is the statements of the lawyers for the Macrones and the filing that they put out, and they let the public know about it because they want the public to have further, they want to build up the public sentiment against Candace Owens. That's what they're doing here. And this is case in point right here. And if people are out there saying, well, Candace Owens uses bots or buys followers and views and stuff on her social medias. Well, if that's true, then so are these people. They're doing the same thing. Now you got a bunch of people all saying the same thing at the same time, all about the same situation. Everybody's saying the same thing about Candace Owens. Look at this lawsuit. Oh my God, it's so crazy. Candace doesn't have a chance to win. She's about to get destroyed. She's about to get financially wiped out. There's like 50 people on X all posting the same type of things over the last 3 days on this. What they'll tell y'all about that when you see the same stuff being said by the same people on the same day at the same time. It's a smear campaign. It is coordinated. This is not organic. I told y'all this like a week and a half ago when everybody was bashing Candace Owens over the Charlie Kirk thing. Now they're doing the same thing with the Macron lawsuit. So Candace Owens has kicked over a few hornets' nests and jumped up and down on him, and they're coming after her. That's what's happening here. This is not organic. Let me continue. I'm not even finished reading the post. Courts consistently treat monetized conspiracy content harshly. This is, again, emotional string pulls here, especially when it involves accusations of identity fraud, falsified documents, or fabricated personal history. Okay, that's all emotional string pulls. None of it makes any logic. None of this has any logical bearing on the case. The more evidence of revenue tied to the claims, the higher the potential for punitive damages. Okay, that part I agree with. The more money you made from doing the thing that you got sued for, if you lose, the more money you got to pay. Okay, fair enough. But they got to win the lawsuit first. That's the hard part. The hard part is not how much money you get. The hard part is, can you win the lawsuit? So again, this is a whole bunch of nothing by Insurrection Barbie. Continuing. In short, If even a fraction of what the complaint alleges is upheld in discovery, Owens could face not only a major financial hit, but the same kind of legal precedent that ultimately crushed Alex Jones. That's not true. So they say if even a fraction of what the complaint alleges is upheld in discovery, first of all, there's certain things you must prove in a defamation lawsuit, and it's not about upholding things in discovery. So this is a falsehood that this person's putting out here. And they say Owens can face a major financial hit. Yeah, if she loses, she will face a major financial hit. That's true. But the same kind of legal precedent that ultimately crushed Alex Jones. So the last time I checked, Alex Jones was still doing the show. What do you mean crushed him? Yeah, he lost that suit and he got a judgment against him, but Alex Jones still got a show, doesn't he? He's still out there? I mean, give me a yes or no. Does he still do his show every day? Last I checked, he did. So what are they talking about? This doesn't even make any sense. Now, here's what I said. I said, in short, my response was not nearly as long as this person's post. I said, it's a defamation. I said, first of all, this is false. I said, this is a defamation lawsuit. The Macrones must prove. This is how defamation works, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of people don't understand this. So please listen very carefully. Next time you hear somebody talking about this lawsuit or defamation at all, here's the crux of defamation. The crux of defamation is not that you told a lie. That is not defamation. Lying about a person is not defamation. Having inaccurate information and sharing it is also not defamation. So if I say you are from Texas, but you're actually from Oklahoma, and I keep saying you're from Texas, but you're actually from Oklahoma, you cannot sue me for defamation. Not on that alone. Even though my information was factually incorrect, that is, you can't sue me for that. Defamation means I know that you're from Oklahoma, yet I keep saying that you're from Texas. That's defamation. Defamation is the person who defamed you knew the truth, yet they continue to tell a lie. That's defamation. And you have to prove it. You can't assert it. You have to prove it. You have to prove the person knew the truth and that they told a lie anyway. When you do that, you win a defamation case. And a defamation case actually requires about 5 things you have to prove. I'm going to list the 5 things. I talked about this before, but let me finish reading the rest of my post. I said, it's a defamation lawsuit for which the Macrones must prove that Candace knew she was telling a lie and continued to tell it anyway. They can't prove it because when Candace asked for the proof, they wouldn't answer. Nothing was debunked nor proven as false. The crux to this whole argument between the Macrones and Candace Owens is that they say they provided proof that Brigitte is a woman. Candace said they did not provide proof that Brigitte is a woman. And in court, if this ends up going to an actual court case, a trial, I don't know. It might get settled out of court. It might get dropped before this happens. I don't know. Candace might get assassinated before it occurs. If any of those happen, then it won't be a case. If this goes to court, what the judge is going to have to decide is this proof, quote unquote, provided by the Macrones, actual proof that she's a woman, or is it not? Because if it is, then again, there's 2 things that have to be proven. First of all, the judge, actually 3. Number 1, the judge has to decide that the information that the Macrones provided is proof that she's a woman. The judge had to say, okay, this is enough proof. Yes, Brigitte is a woman. That's number 1. But it got to be all 3. It's like a combination of that. Number 2, he must decide that Candace Owens or the jury, whoever is going to decide in this case, they also must decide that this proof is enough for Candace Owens to absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, knew that this proves Brigitte is a woman. Meaning Candace could not still have been questioning it. She had to know for sure, okay, damn, she's a woman. I'm going to say it anyway. They got to prove that. And then number 3, they got to prove that because she, while knowing that, she kept telling a lie. Because if there is any reasonable doubt by the judge or the jury in this case that Candace Owens, with the quote unquote proof from the Macrones, did not believe the proof or did not accept the proof, then you don't have defamation. Because if Candace doesn't believe this is true, then she has a right to keep saying that, oh, this is nonsense. They got to prove that she knew it was true and then kept telling a lie. That's what makes defamation. It's not just, oh, I gave you proof. Well, you can give me proof. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. That's not proof. Remember the movie Friday? When any of y'all saw the movie Friday with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker? And Chris Tucker is Smokey in the movie. And Big Worm comes up. And Big Worm's first appearance in the movie, he calls Smokey over and says, hey, did you finish selling that pharmaceuticals supposed to be selling on my behalf? And Smokey says, yeah, I finished selling it. He said, well, give me my money. And he owed Big Worm $200. So Smokey pulls out $100. He starts counting the money. He's like 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Then he flips it over, starts counting it over. And Big Worm says, dude, that's $100. All right, where's the rest of the money? And if y'all remember that, yeah, Big Worm. And you remember that part? Smokey trying to turn $100 into $200 is his form of proof. But Big Worm did not buy the proof. So a big worm does not believe in your proof. Just because you called it proof does not make it proof. And you can't claim defamation if I don't believe that your proof is actually accurate. They had to prove that Candace Owens got the information from the Macrones, believed that it was accurate, and then kept saying what she was saying anyway. They can't win this case. They can't win this case. That is my assertion. The Macrones cannot win this defamation case the way that it is constructed. 219 pages of nothingness. They have to prove that Candace Owens believed it. If you can't prove that she believed it, then you have no case. Now, of course, they got to convince the judge. I'm not the judge, but this is the problem with their case. The crux of the entire case hinges on that. So let me give you the points of what you need for defamation. And I shared this a long time ago, but let me pull it up again. Let me see if I can find it. Because a lot of people really don't understand how defamation actually works. So let me just look it up all over again. And tell me the key things that must be proven to win a defamation lawsuit in the United States. So here I'm going to go with ChatGPT for this one. I tend to use Grok for current events, but ChatGPT I like better for evergreen stuff. Grok is a little bit faster than ChatGPT, but I think ChatGPT is overall better. My personal opinion. But maybe because I use Chat more often. I got the paid version of both of these, so waiting. ChatGPT is taking too long. So here's the only thing about ChatGPT. It gives good answers, but sometimes it takes too long. Grok goes faster. So I'm going to ask the same question to Grok. Tell me the key things that must be proven in order to win a defamation lawsuit in the United States. Grok is just faster for some reason. All right, here we go. So here are the core elements. ChatGPT gave an answer finally. Core elements that must be proven to win a defamation case. Please pay attention. To beat Candace Owens in court, this is what the Macrones must prove. Number one, a false statement of fact. They got to prove that the defendant made a statement of fact, not an opinion, and that it was false. So that's one thing they got to prove. So if they say, hey, she said that I'm a man, but I'm actually a woman, that's one. Check. Number two, you got to publish it. Did Candace publish it? Yes, she did. She put it out on her podcast. Number three, that there was fault, negligence, or actual malice. If it's a public figure like the Macrones, you got to prove actual malice, meaning the defendant knew it was false or they acted with reckless disregard for the truth. In other words, they have to prove that she knew the truth. You have to prove it. This is the hardest part of winning a defamation suit as a public figure. Public figures have very hard times winning defamation cases simply because you're a public figure. People talk about you all the time. What do people say about Donald Trump? They say crazy things about Donald Trump all the time. He doesn't sue them. Why? Because you can't win a defamation case as a head of state. It's very difficult because everybody's talking about you every day. So now you're just going to sue somebody because they said something that is not true. People say untrue stuff about Trump every day. How many of them has he sued? Very few. So they got to prove that Candace acted with reckless disregard for the truth and that she knew or that she knew it was false. One or the other. Reckless disregard for the truth. Candace Owens, if you watch the series, Becoming Brigitte, Candace Owens went through that series with painstaking detail as to they provided this and this and this, or they said this and this and this. I don't think this is true. Here's why. Here's what I see. Here's what I found. Here's what I researched. Here's what somebody gave me as an anonymous tip. Here's what I looked at. Here's why I don't believe this document. Here's why I don't think this picture is real. Here's why I think the person in the photo is not this person, but that person. This is what Candace does in all her episodes. So what does that prove? That proves anything other than a reckless disregard for the truth. That means she was actually looking for the truth and she wasn't finding it. And that's why she kept saying what she was saying. That's what it sounds like to me. And again, you don't have to like Candace. You don't have to agree with her positions. You don't even have to think that Brigitte is a man. You don't have to agree with any of these things. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. You don't have to think that Candace Owens' theories on Charlie Kirk are accurate or correct or that she should even be doing it. But nobody can say that she's not trying to get to something. Now, whether you think she's lying or you think she's just coming up with this big web of things that don't add up, if you think that, fine. But can you prove in court that she has a reckless disregard for what's true and what's not true when her whole show is based on doing investigations into finding out what is true? How can you prove that in the court of law? Somebody explain that to me, how you can prove that when her whole show is based on investigation. She has a reckless disregard for the truth. Again, to win a defamation case, I mean, say this again. This is the third point to a defamation case, and this is the crux of the entire case. You must prove that either she knew it was false and she said it anyway, which I just explained to you how they can't prove that she knew it was false, or she had a reckless disregard for the truth when her whole series is based on finding the truth and investigating every lead that she gets. Isn't that the main criticism of Candace Owens right now? Is that she's investigating all these leads and throwing these theories out there and saying, well, maybe it was this and then it was this and then it was that. And people are trying to make fun of it. But one thing you can't say is that she's not trying. Whether you think she's lying and trying, whether you think she's telling the truth and trying, she is trying. So you can't say she has a reckless disregard for truth when that's literally her whole shtick. Somebody explain this to me. Somebody explain this to me. Her whole shtick is investigating the truth, but now they're going to say, hey, you have a reckless disregard for the truth. They can't win the case unless they prove one of these two things. Now they got to prove harm or damages. In other words, that you're hurting my reputation, hurting my name, making me lose money. They can pretty much prove that. So that's a check. And then they say that the statement was not privileged. In other words, it wasn't court testimony. It wasn't a legislative statement. It wasn't a police report or official text documents. So these 5 things, 4 of them are in the bag. For the Macrones to win this lawsuit, 4 of the 5 things you must prove to win a defamation case are in the bag, guaranteed, signed, sealed, delivered, win for the Macrones. The problem is the one thing that they can't win is the entire thing upon which the entire case hinges, which is you got to prove she knew the truth and told a lie and or she had reckless disregard for the truth. They can't prove it. This is why I don't know if they try to put out $1.5 million on Candace Owens' head, but I do believe they're trying to get either shut her the hell up or get her to apologize or get her some type of mea culpa from Candace or take her out, whatever they got to do without having to go to court. Because if they have to go to court, if they lose, this is going to be one of the most humiliating things that happen to a head of state in Western society if they lose this case. And they're going to lose this case if it goes to court. I think they're trying to stay out of court. That's what I think. I don't know how they're trying to stay out of court. I don't know if they put $1.5 million on her head. That's what she said. And I don't think they want to go to court because this is going to look bad for them. Because the discovery, all the information that comes out, especially if this plays out publicly, if the court, everything that comes out in court, everything that happens in court, comes out, the public testimonies, the documentation, if there's video, if all of this plays out publicly, and we know Candace is going to talk about it, especially if she wins. Can you imagine what's going to happen if they go to trial and Candace Owens wins the trial? Can you imagine what's going to happen? Can you imagine what series she's going to come out with then if she wins? Because what that's going to do is, first of all, is going to validate a lot of things that she's been saying. It's going to validate her as a person, meaning look at all my theories and all y'all made fun of my theories. Now look at this. I just beat the president of France and his wife in a lawsuit when they tried to take me out financially, if not in other ways. I just proved that my theories actually should be listened to. Her audience is going to be twice as big as it is right now if she wins this lawsuit. And she's going to continue to shit on the Macrones because they just tried to shut her up and they failed. They can't afford this loss. This is the reason why this is a very, very bad idea by the Macron family. This is a terrible idea. First of all, now everybody in the world is going to be asking, is your woman a man or is your wife a man or a woman? Even if they win the lawsuit, everybody's going to be asking the question. And for the rest of their lives, each of them, because she's like, Brigitte's like, how many years older? She's like 25 years older than her husband. So Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, his wife is like 25 years older than him. For those of you who don't know, she was like 40. He was like 15, something like that. So for the rest of both of their lives, everybody's going to be wondering. She's probably going to die before he does. And people are going to probably guess that the guy's gay. And he's walking around with a woman, allegedly his wife. And so now people are going to be thinking he's gay. He's got to fight that for the rest of his life. And this is going to be on his resume. This is going on his resume. Very bad idea by the Macron family. I can't say that. I don't know how many different ways to say it. This is a horrible idea by them to go and sue Candace Owens because now they got to stand on this. Now, Candace Owens escalated all of this because during the series, she would tell you, the Macrones sent me this, they sent me that, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I don't believe them. And she told them, bring the lawsuit. She said this on her show, bring the lawsuit. I'm going to put all the money I got behind my legal team to fight this lawsuit because y'all are saying some bullshit and you're not a woman, you're a man, Brigitte. Candace Owens said this brazenly and outwardly on her show multiple times. So she wants to smoke, and she's getting it right now. And she sold themed merchandise. She released more episodes after they told her cease and desist. Now, she launched season 2 in September 2025, despite formal retractions, demands delivered in March and September. Again, it was back in March or even last year. So the Macrones argued that Owens acted with actual malice, meaning she was knowingly spreading lies or recklessly ignoring the truth. And this is the part they got to prove. This is what I just spent 10 minutes explaining to you all. They say that they should send emails that show she was given evidence disproving her claims but continued publishing anyway. This is the crux of it. Did they disprove her claims? Candace Owens, every time she got something from the Macrones, at least what she wanted to tell us, the audience that is, here's what they sent me, here's what it says, here's why I either believe it or I don't believe it. Here's why I think it's true or I think it's bullshit. And almost every time it was the latter. She said, I think it's some bullshit. This is not true. This is fake. This is not real. That's not who they said it is. This is not the real picture, et cetera, et cetera. She said that every single time. The Macrones are saying it was true. She's saying it's not true. This becomes a he said, she said. You can't win a defamation case where he said, she said. This is the problem for the Macrones. What judge are they going to convince with this? Judge Wapner? I remember Judge Wapner. Now, Candace claims that the Macrones had French commandos and an Israel contractor hired them to assassinate her. All right, this is where the plot has thickened. She cites that an anonymous tip gave this information. And we haven't heard anything from the United States publicly saying that they know anything about this. And who knows, they even would. Yeah. She paused her show earlier this week saying she's not publishing this week, probably because of the safety concerns. And a whole bunch of her supporters are rallying behind her, and a whole bunch of her detractors are rallying against her. But everybody has an opinion. So Candace Owens has done a great job of polarizing the country because everybody has something to say. Now, millions of people are now talking about this, and they say she got a ton of donations when she announced this. I don't know about that, but that's what I heard. Now, critics say the assassination story is a distraction from her collapsing legal defense. So some say her legal defense is not working, and she's putting out the assassination story because maybe she's trying to raise money, or she's trying to raise public sentiment, or she is just afraid and that her legal defense is not going to work. So she and some are coinciding this with, they're correlating this with what happened is her lawyers tried to get the case dismissed and they couldn't get it dismissed. This is what you do when you get sued. Somebody sues you. The first thing you do is try to get the case dismissed. You go to court and you try to get the judge to say, okay, this case has no merit. I'm not even hearing this case. The case is not moving forward. The case is dropped. You cannot sue this person for this reason. She tried that and it failed. So people are saying, well, her legal defense is collapsing. That's the reason why she's doing this. I say any person who gets sued, the first move is to try to get the case dismissed. Second move is to try to settle out of court. The third move is you go to trial. That's basically how it goes. Is Candace going to try to settle out of court? I don't know. She might. It depends on how things are looking between her lawyers, the judge, and what the case says. And if this goes to trial, again, this will be a hell of a story. The content creator in me hopes this goes to trial because I'll get a ton of mileage out of this. I like Candace Owens, and I like Candace Owens' show. I actually hope this doesn't go to trial because trial costs a lot of fucking money. Going to trial costs a lot of money. Criminal trial or civil trial costs a lot of money because lawyers bill by the hour. And the higher the profile of the case, the higher their billing rate. And I don't care how much money you got. Legal cases can gut you. Any of you know anybody who got gutted by a legal case? Give me a yes or a no. Any of you know anybody or you yourself ever been gutted by a legal case? Legal cases cost a lot of money. And the longer the case goes, the more you got to pay. Even a child support case, a criminal case, any case where you got to go back and forth to court like 2, 3, 4 times, legal trials can destroy you. There's an NBA player named Sebastian Telfair. Many of you probably don't know who he is unless you're a basketball follower. He wasn't a super big name, but he's from New York City. He's from Coney Island. He was a well-known player. He went straight from high school to the NBA around the same time as LeBron James. So I think he went like a year after LeBron, like 2004 or something like that. Played in the NBA for several years. I don't remember exactly how many years he played. So a bunch of you said, yes, you had it happen. Yeah, so the court cases are extremely expensive. And Sebastian Telfair played in the NBA for several years. In total salary, he earned about $20 to $40 million. I've heard him say 40, but when I was looking it up, I saw 20, whatever. $20 to $40 million. He earned a lot of money. All right, tens of millions. There's a video that was on YouTube, a little series that he put out. He decided to put this out. I don't know why, but he did. He decided to put this out that Sebastian Telfair, after making $20, $30, $40 million in the NBA, you know where he lives now? Anybody want to know where he lives? He's back living in the same project housing building that he grew up in. After playing in the NBA, this dude's not even that old. Sebastian Telfair is probably 40. He's back living in the projects in Brooklyn after going from high school to the NBA. That's how good he was. High school to the NBA. Didn't even go to college. He went straight to the NBA. Was a lottery pick. Made tens of millions of dollars. And now he's back living in the projects. And the reason why he's back living in the projects is because he had 2 court cases. One was he had a gun charge. I think I don't know how he got the gun charge. I think maybe he was going through the airport. He had a gun in his bag and he got caught and he had to go to court for that. And then the other thing was he got divorced. And his divorce case went back and forth to court between him and his wife because there was no acrimony between the two of them. And between those 2 things, and he had to spend some time in jail, he lost all his money. Now, you cut whatever he made in half due to taxes and living in New York. But then even the money he had left over, we're talking at least $10 million left over. He lost all of it. And now he's back living in the projects. And he has 2 kids. At least 2 kids, at least. That I saw in the video. Yeah, at least 2 kids. I'm bringing all that up to say that when you go to court, it can cost you everything that you got. Did y'all see the video? Who's the guy's name? Who's the actor? Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey said he's essentially homeless after court cases because he had a whole bunch of court cases that he fought and he cleared his name in every single case. Ladies and gentlemen, he won the cases. Or he didn't really win. He cleared his name. So they were trying to get him, but he didn't lose. So he just stayed neutral. And he had to spend a bunch of money on lawyers. His name was stained, so he couldn't go get jobs in Hollywood. And he wasn't working because he was in court. Essentially homeless. Kevin Spacey. Everybody knows who he is, right? Very famous actor. He says he's essentially homeless because of all the money he had to spend on court cases. Legal cases cost a lot of money. So Candace Owens, I understand her trying to get this case dismissed because it costs a lot of money to win. Even winning this case is going to cost her a ton of money. Now, she frames this lawsuit as a foreign attack on American free speech and investigative journalism. She said that from the beginning. That's not a new argument by her. Her spokesperson says this is foreign interference, and they're going to try everything they can to try to get this case dropped, and they should. Now, U.S. courts do not treat provably false factual statements as protected opinion. We know this. This is the reason why defamation exists. So there has to be factual accuracy when claims are presented as investigative reporting, and that's going to be the crux of this whole thing. And if there's any reasonable doubt, then the Macrones can't win. That's my position right now. Now, the judge says Delaware has jurisdiction because Candace Owens' digital infrastructure is based in Delaware. So her company is a Delaware-based company. And a lot of people base their companies in Delaware because it has very favorable laws when it comes to laws and rules when it comes to entrepreneurship and businesses. So a lot of companies are based in Delaware, even though the person or people are not actually in Delaware. So they have legal interest in this case. So the case is taking place in Delaware civil court. Now, her financial hardship claim is used to argue dismissal. So when she tried to file this dismissal case, let me see if I can find out more about this. Tell me the details and more about Candace Owens and her lawyers filing to get the defamation case that is currently against her from the Macron family in France dismissed. What did she claim? What were her reasons and why was it denied? So Candace claimed financial hardship, that fighting this case is going to cost her a lot of money. And she ain't lying. It's going to cost her a lot of money, even if she wins. So I'm just trying to find out with the Macron's called this a campaign of harassment. Candace Owens sold merchandise calling Brigitte the man of the year. Yeah, we saw all that stuff. So I'm trying to find out the motion to dismiss. So in September, 2.5 months ago, Candace Owens filed a 43-page motion to dismiss the case 2 days after the Charlie Kirk assassination. I guess her lawyers did this probably. They said the case should be thrown out before a trial. Her legal team said this is the defense of free speech against foreign interference. And they were trying to say this shouldn't happen in Delaware. They said there is no witnesses, evidence, or relevant Delaware law applies. She called it quintessential libel tourism. And what else did they say? There's a lot of details in here. I'm not reading all these details. Broader defenses. She insists her claims are investigative journalism based on credible sources, not provably false facts. I agree with this. And they say that as public figures, the Macrons must prove that Owens knew her statements were false or acted with reckless disregard. And she claimed that she relied on evidence like missing photos from her early life and crowdsourced tips, dismissing counter evidence as fabricated. Exactly. That's her argument. And if this goes to trial, that's all they got to argue the entire time. It's really going to come down to the interpretation of the judge. Now, she has monetized the feud with her podcast and her downloads, et cetera, et cetera. And let's see. The Macron's lawyers, they countered 3 weeks later with an amended complaint expanding the counts. So this is what happened. They filed the lawsuit back in whenever this was, like March or April of this year. Candace Owens files 43 pages to dismiss the case, making her argument for why they should dismiss it. Then the Macron's lawyers came back with a stronger complaint, and they added more things that Candace Owens did wrong, basically going off the material in her show. They said that Owens doubled down and escalated after the motion, putting out new episodes and things that Candace has said that Brigitte might have been tied to mind control experiments, incest, and distractions from Charlie Kirk's death, et cetera, et cetera. And she did kind of say some of those things. And that Candace Owens has strengthened our case by knowingly false and defamatory rhetoric. That's what they claimed. Then, let's see. In November, this is the thing we're talking about now, the money on her head, allegedly. So let's see. The case is ongoing. Discovery is likely underway. Now, the discovery, for the most part, is all going to be on the side of the Macrons because they're the ones who are allegedly providing the information. Candace Owens has done discovery in real time. We've been listening to her discovery. The Macrons are the ones who are really got to give up all the information in discovery. And this is where Candace Owens' lawyers get to run wild. This is where it's going to get interesting because right now, all the conversation is on one side. So any of you who's been hearing people talk about this is a one-sided conversation. It's all the Macron lawyers or the Candace detractors, for lack of a better term, talking shit about her because they're the ones suing her. And they're putting out a 219-page lawsuit saying all the things that she did wrong. And all the people who either don't like her or call themselves investigators or critical thinkers or whatever reason they have for saying what they're saying, they're all coming out with all this ammo against Candace Owens because plenty of people want to hear it. And there's a willing audience who looking to hear this. And it looks like Candace is on her heels right now because all the information is flowing in one direction. When discovery begins and the Macrons have to give up a bunch of information to Candace's lawyers to be used in the court case, that's when the conversation starts going in the other direction. That's when the rabbit will have the gun. Right now, the rabbit is running from the gun. Rabbit doesn't have the gun right now. If this case begins and there's discovery, that's when this conversation is going to shift a little bit more in the other direction. So let's see. The Macron said that Candace Owens overrode or denied dismissal by asserting minimum context for jurisdiction, rejecting libel tourism. So wait a minute. They say rejecting libel tourism because U.S. courts prioritize First Amendment protections over foreign limits. No forum, non-convenience bar. Witnesses like Candace Owens are U.S.-based. Evidence is digital. Escalation bolsters malice. So they say that she escalated this by continuing to talk about it, by talking about the Stanford stuff, and this is reckless disregard. And legal experts are saying, as I already told y'all, the Macrons face a very high bar that they got to clear. But Owens' refusal to retract and her merch sales could prove malice. I say that's thin. I think that's thin, but I'm not the judge. So there's going to be a hearing in early 2026. Now, why does this matter? Because between now and early 2026, guess what Candace Owens got to do? Meet with her lawyers. Guess what her lawyers got to do? Go gather paperwork. If they get discovery, then the lawyers got to go through all the discovery process and looking through all the evidence that the Macrons provide. You know what that takes? Time, folks. You know what lawyers charge? By the hour. This is why this is an issue for Candace Owens. And she knew this. She said this earlier this year when she got sued. She knew this was going to happen. Every minute Candace Owens' lawyer spends working on this case, Candace Owens has to pay them. And this is financial hardship. I don't care how much money Candace Owens got. This is a financial hardship. Going to court is a financial hardship for anybody. Why? Because you could have used that money for something else, even if you got it. Now you don't have it because your lawyer has it, and you got to use it for. You could have used that money for something else. So this is going to be an interesting one. And this is, by the way, now that we're on the subject, this is one of the reasons why big companies and big entities often can get away with shit. You know why they often can get away with stuff? Because if and when they get sued, they have more money than the average civilian has or the average small business or small business owner has. And the way the legal system works, in case any of you don't know this detail, that the legal system moves slowly on purpose. It moves slowly on purpose. If you are a criminal defendant in a legal situation, the situation moves slowly on purpose to stretch out your anxiety, your fear, your worry about what might happen. And in the process of that stretched out time, what they hope you do, the system itself, you know what they want you to do? Anybody know the answer to the question? You're in the middle of a criminal case that has yet to be adjudicated, but you're in the process, and they keep slow walking the case. What's the number one thing they want you to do in a criminal case? I'm not talking a civil case. In a criminal case, what do they want you to do? A bunch of you are saying settle. You can't settle a criminal case. That's a civil case you settle. In a criminal case, they want you to plea. They want you to take a plea deal. They want you to take a plea. What is a plea deal? A plea deal is basically when you cop to guilt without going through trial in exchange for a lesser penalty. So let's say you're on trial for assault and battery, and they're asking to give you 5 years in jail, and now you're fighting the case. You get a lawyer, say, I'm going to fight the case. Now they're taking forever for the case to actually get through the court. And in the process, every time there's a meeting, they offer you a plea deal. All right, look, we'll give you 1 year. All right, we're asking for 5. Plead guilty, and we'll give you 1 year in jail. Plead guilty, we'll give you 6 months probation. Plead guilty, we'll give you 2 years and 6 months supervised release instead of that 5 years that we're trying to get. Now, understand if you go to trial and you win, you get 0. You get nothing. You get to walk out scot-free, but it's going to cost you a ton of money paying your lawyers. If you plead, now you can stop paying your lawyers, but you still got to do that penalty, and they still get the stat of getting a conviction on their record because you pleaded guilty. So they basically get a stat of they got a guilty conviction, which makes the prosecution look good, and you got to go to jail on something that you might not even have done. There's a series on Netflix called The Khalif Browder Story. I've mentioned this many times in the past. Those of you may not have heard me talk about it. Any of you know the Khalif Browder story or seen it? It's a kid named Khalif Browder. He was in New York City. He came from a pretty much broke family. He got fingered for a robbery in New York City when he was 16 years of age. Some Mexican guy who was an immigrant in the country said, that guy robbed me. Khalif said he didn't do it. He gets taken to jail. You get taken to jail on something like that, you can bail out. The cash bail was $1,000. He needed $1,000 to bail out of jail. His family, he was the youngest kid, but he had several adult brothers and sisters and his mom all together. All of them together, there's like 3, 4, or 5 of them, didn't have $1,000. They couldn't get him out of jail because they didn't have $1,000. So he had to stay in jail. And by the time his fingerprints came back, it's all digital now, but back then it had to go through a manual process. By the time his fingerprints came back, because he had a prior charge, he got denied bail. So had he come up with $1,000 that weekend, he would have got out of jail that weekend. But when the prints came back, they said, no, you can't get bail. So even though he came up with $1,000 2 weeks later, he couldn't get out of jail. So he stayed in jail. He's in Rikers Island. Everybody heard of Rikers Island? Most notorious jail in America probably right now. He's in Rikers Island. He stayed on Rikers Island for 3 years with no trial. He was charged with robbery. He didn't even go to trial, ladies and gentlemen. He was in Rikers Island for 3 years. He was 16. 3 years he was in Rikers Island because he didn't have the money to bail himself out. Number one, he was denied bail. Number two, and number three, every time he had a court date, he would get in front of the judge and the judge would say, hey, we're going to delay the case because that's the way the court system works. The case got delayed. It got pushed back 6 months. But, young man, you can get out of jail right now. All you got to do is plead guilty to the charge, i.e. admit that you did rob this guy. That's going to go on your record as a robbery charge, and we'll give you probation. You can go home right now. Khalif Browder was too proud to accept that. He said, no, I didn't rob this guy. I'm not accepting a plea. I don't want an assault or robbery on my record. I didn't do it. I don't want any fucking probation. No, I want to go to trial because I'm going to prove that I didn't do it. This is what justice is supposed to do, right? Isn't that how the justice system is supposed to work? He said, I want to go to trial. She said, okay, go back to jail because your court case got pushed back. His court case kept getting pushed back. 3 years he was on Rikers Island. And in the time he's on Rikers Island, he's arguing with the guards. He got in confrontation, so he spent some time in solitary confinement. Finally, he gets his trial date after 3 years on Rikers Island. Do y'all know what happened when he got his trial date? Do y'all know what happened when he got his trial date? Any of you know this story? Does any of you know this Khalif Browder story? I suggest any of you want to learn how fucked up the legal system can be. Go watch this story on Netflix. It's on Netflix. It's called Khalif Browder. When he gets his trial date, the guy who said he robbed him, he's the witness. He's the eyeball witness. Dude is in Mexico. So the prosecutors are calling dude in Mexico, come back to New York. We will fly you to New York so you can stand witness against this guy who you said robbed you. Dude won't come back. He won't come to New York. He just ignores the prosecutors. He won't come back to New York because, again, he didn't commit a crime. He said, I'm not coming to New York. Come to New York for what? To help you? I'm not coming. He wouldn't come back to New York. So when the trial date happens, the prosecutors say, well, Your Honor, we don't have the witness. He won't come to court. The judge says, well, you don't have a witness. You don't have a case. Case dismissed. Khalif Browder walks out of Rikers Island. No charges. Well, he got a charge. No guilty plea. no adjudication, no trial, but he spent 3 years of his life from age 16 to age 19 on Rikers Island. He gets back home. His mind is completely screwed. His mind is cooked because all the time he spent in jail on Rikers Island. Mind you, this kid's 16 years old. Any of you have kids this age, imagine 3 years on Rikers Island. His brain was so cooked that when he got home, he would go outside on the patio and he was just walking around in a circle. And his mom said she would ask him, son, why do you keep walking around in a circle like that? And he said to his mom, he said, Mom, I spent so much time in solitary confinement. That's all I could do. And he couldn't stop himself from doing it. When he got out, he could go anywhere. He couldn't stop himself just walking around in a circle. Long story short, he took his own life. 19 years old. This is how crazy the legal system can be. Go watch it. It's on Netflix. I'm surprised many of you didn't know about it. It's called The Khalif Browder. Last name is Browder. Browder. Look it up on Netflix. It's about an 8-part series. And it explains the whole thing. It gives you the whole story. And he's in it. But he took his life after they recorded it. That's why it became a bigger story. And it was really about making the cash bail system look crazy. Because if you're broke, basically you're fucked. If you got money, you can get out. That's the way the legal system works. Now, I was saying all that to say this. The legal system in the United States, especially when it comes to lawsuits, forget about the criminal stuff, the lawsuits. You want to sue Apple? You want to sue Amazon? Good luck. You want to get in a legal battle with the head of a state like the French president, Candace Owens? Good luck. Why? Because they have more resources than you, which means all they're going to do is try to slow walk the case. They're going to keep filing motions and different reasons to slow down the case and make it take longer and longer and longer and longer because they understand the game. The game is this. The longer the case takes, the more you have to keep paying your lawyers, and eventually you are going to run out of money. And eventually your lawyers won't fight the case anymore because you can't pay them. Therefore, they win, even if they were wrong. So how are you going to sue Amazon? All right. How many lawyers do you think Amazon has? How much money do you think they have to pay lawyers? They can pay lawyers until you die, your kids die, and their kids die. They can keep paying lawyers to go to court every day. That's how much money they have. How much money you got to pay your lawyer? How are you going to win the case? This is the way the legal system works, by the way. This is the reason why I advise most of you to stay out of court. It's designed to go slow so that the people who have money win and the people who don't have money lose. Candace Owens, I don't know how much money she has. I'm sure she makes some. I mean, she does get 1 million views on her YouTube videos, but lawyers cost a lot of money. And I guarantee you the French president has access to more resources than Candace Owens has access to. That's the issue. And that's the reason why she's trying to get this case dismissed. And if I was her, I'd be trying to get it dismissed too. So we shall see. Now, the Macrons may introduce medical or DNA evidence if needed to shut the rumor down entirely. That would be great. Candace says she asked for this. They wouldn't provide it. They said they provided proof, but they didn't say they provided this. If they had DNA or medical evidence, then that would end this whole conversation. Candace would never even did the series if they provided that. Their attorney said that they will end this myth permanently if trial proceeds. That's what their attorney said. We'll see. Attorneys are known for talking tough before trial. We'll see. That's what they claim. Now, Owens is leaning on speculation, yes. Anonymous tips, yes. And missing years, yes, instead of authenticated records. These are all true. And some are saying that none of her claims are coming from named sources or verified documents. Well, that's kind of the point, that there are no named sources and there are no verified documents. That's the point. So again, how do you prove that she was lying? This is the issue. Now, her base sees her as exposing elites and revealing hidden truths. I don't know if that's what her base sees her as. I don't know if I'm part of that base. I see her as investigating and finding out what the truth is. I don't think she's revealing a hidden truth. I think she's trying to find out what the truth is, and the people who know the truth don't want her to get to it, so they're trying to make her be quiet. And or they're sending out their legions of detractors to besmirch her name, smear her name, and poison the well so that you don't listen to her. That's what they're trying to do. And in some ways, they're succeeding. So critics say she is monetizing conspiracies, misleading viewers, and weaponizing culture war paranoia for profit. Well, one thing is she is making profit, and there's nothing wrong with making profit. No matter what if you're doing something that's not illegal to make profit, you have a right to do it. And that's what her critics are saying, that she's just using conspiracies, that she's just misleading people who are too dumb to realize that she's lying. I say, okay, if she's lying, then tell us how she's lying. Instead of just saying that she's dumb or that her followers are dumb or that Candace Owens is a conspiracy theorist or that she's going crazy, tell me in a logical and objective way what she said is wrong. Tell me. Break it down. None of them can do it. They all are just resorting to the ad hominem because they don't have any solid arguments against her. So they're just trying to make her look bad so that you don't listen to her in the first place. That's called the poisoning the well fallacy. Now, engagement around Owens has surged. So her credibility has gotten bigger. Her visibility has gotten bigger. And some people are trying to bash her at the same time. So the same visibility strengthens the Macron's claim because they're like, well, look at all these people listening to this. There's more reason why she's bad and more reason why she has to pay us more money. So this is what this all comes down to. I'm interested to see if this actually goes to trial. If this goes to trial, I think it'll be very interesting. I'm very interested in the discovery. I'm interested in seeing how this plays out in an actual court of law and what arguments get made by both sides legally in what is a civil case, by the way. This is not a criminal case. Nobody's going to jail. In a civil case, this is not about money, I don't think, for the Macrons. I believe they are intimating that this is about principle. I don't even think it's about principle. I think it has to be something else. It has to be another motive that I haven't named. That's the reason why they're doing this. Because it can't be about money. They're not after Candace Owens' money. How much money can they get out of Candace Owens compared to how much they have access to? I don't think that matters. Do I think it's about Brigitte Macron actually being a woman? I'm not sure. Because if Brigitte Macron was actually a woman, they would have came out with this back when the dude in France wrote the book. Becoming Brigitte was a book by Xavier in France years before Candace Owens came out with her series. So if they really cared about that, they would have did it in France back then. So I think there's some other reason I haven't figured out yet. That's what I think. All that said, folks, let's get to the comments. Let's get to the fun part, the comments. I do need to take a restroom break because I've been talking for a long time here. So give me 90 seconds. Let me run to the restroom. Then we'll get to
You're not that guy.
Some of our favorite sounds.
You're not that guy, Bill. Trust me. You're not that guy. Emotional, damn it.
Or
have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
90 seconds. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to it over on YouTube. Why Knight says, Candace, she's so worried about Charlie Macron and wife causing her self threats when she got kids but claimed to be a Christian but not using her platform to speak out for Christians killings. What does that even mean? Why Knight? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Jeffrey Sparrow said, Big Jeff, as a Christian, as a child of God, have no remorse. Candace Owens says, death and life are the power of the tongue. What does that mean? Margaret Garbo says she wouldn't lie. I don't know. I think she could lie. Any human being can lie. Men lie, women lie. Care Falco said, I think they claim they showed her the birth certificate. Yeah, they probably showed her a birth certificate. Now, how do we know that's the real one? They're the heads of the state of France. They can come up with any document they want. If they want to give it, if they want to get it, they come up with anything. They come up with a birth certificate for me if I ask them to, if they wanted to do it. That doesn't prove anything. Margaret says, Candace got a birth certificate. She would have said so. Also, a birth certificate isn't proof. The Macrones need to do is produce photos and DNA. Until they do that, everyone is with Candace. It's not photos. You can produce photos through AI. You can easily produce a photo. Margaret, what you said, the DNA is really what will prove everything. DNA would end this whole thing. They haven't provided DNA. A birth certificate doesn't prove anything. You can make a fake birth certificate very easily. Anything that's paperwork, you can make very easily, especially if you're the head of the damn country. Stephen Meyer said, love Candace. People are afraid of the truth. I know God will keep her safe. Well, we hope so. I mean, people said the same thing about Charlie Kirk. I hope you're right, because I want to see this play out. I just want to see it play out and find out what happens in court, even though it's going to cost Candace a ton of money to fight this. So I'm getting into comments on TikTok. By the way, those of you on TikTok, I read from oldest to newest, and I can only go back so far. So if I missed your comment because you posted it way early and I just didn't see it, do not spam my comments. Do not post the same comment more than once, twice, maybe, if you think I missed it. And if you posted twice and I still don't read it, then I just didn't read it. But do not spam my comments. And moderators, we allow disagreement. We're okay with disagreeers. We're okay with detractors and disagreement as long as they don't spam or troll. Christian or Kendra M, thanks for the follow. Christian said, damn, I got to go to work and I have to finish this later. Yes, hopefully you do. Lori B, Patriot Gen X said, Insurrection Barbie puts out a lot of stuff. She probably did read the whole thing. Okay, maybe she did. The argument that Insurrection Barbie made, though, was a logically incorrect, inaccurate argument. Party Mama says she's slandering them because what she's saying is, and your comment cut off. Bozo said, why is Candace Owens so involved with the wife of foreign leaders? To hell with Owens, lock her up. Lock her up for what? And she's not involved. She's investigating. That's what investigative journalism is. You find a story that you find interesting, you investigate it. That's the whole point. That is literally the job. Keep on living for life says that's exactly what you do. Use a lot of words and say nothing. All right. Oh, I appreciate that.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Keep on living for life. I appreciate you. If you think I'm using a lot of words and saying nothing, why do you keep coming in here every day? Obviously, I'm saying something. Party Mama says she's done all this for profit. Well, I believe profit is part of the game because it is literally her business and her job. There's nothing wrong with making money doing what you're doing. If you disagree with what someone's doing, the fact that they're making money doing it doesn't make it any worse because somebody could disagree with what you're doing. So what makes it more virtuous, what you or somebody else does versus what she does? Just the fact that you disagree. If you disagree, then just say you disagree. But saying it is all for profit is a straw man, as if doing something for money makes it somehow nefarious. That would make everything that anybody in here does for money nefarious. So is that what you're saying? Because if you are, that's a straw man argument.
Strawberry cheesecake.
So Party Mama, congrats on getting the first slice of cheesecake on the day. Party Mama says the same thing that Limbaugh and Kirk both did. What's the same thing that they did? What is the parallel between Limbaugh and Kirk and Candace Owens? Please tell us. KP said, put your MAGA hat on. I don't have one. Mikey said, I asked Gemini AI to summarize this case for me and it said Candace Owens' claims were baseless. Well, having a baseless claim, Mikey, does not constitute defamation. So you shouldn't have asked Gemini to summarize the case in that way. And AI is good, but it's only good when it gets asked quality questions. You asked a poor question, so you got a poor answer.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
I don't blame Gemini for that, Mikey. I blame you. Lisa Ann said, when they cemented over the CK crime scene, that sealed it for me. Inside job. All right, fair enough. I mean, that's evidence. It's circumstantial evidence. It's not complete proof, but I understand. Jennifer Stewart, good morning. Trey, thank you for the follow. Shannon Burt said, nothing she has done is positive. She also made a series about Kamala Harris's grandma that was false. Shannon, I'm going to have to disagree with this. I'm going to give you you said nothing she has done is positive. I'll just give you the non-sequitur.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
First of all, Shannon, there's no such thing as doing things that are positive. No such thing as a positive action. There's no such thing as a negative action. Actions and circumstances and outcomes are neutral. How we decide to look at them make them positive or negative. So to be accurate, Shannon, what you should say here is you don't have positive feelings about the things that she's done. That would be accurate and not a logical fallacy. But saying nothing she's done is positive is a fallacy. You said she also made a series about Kamala Harris's grandma that was false. I saw the series about Kamala Harris's grandma. I don't think it was false. I think it was investigative journalism. Now, what it sounds like, Shannon, is that you simply didn't like what she found or what she said, or maybe you just don't like Candace. Had you just said that, I would just accept what you said as your opinion. But you're trying to frame this as if it's a logical argument when what you're making here is an emotional one, but your emotion is leaking out of your faulty and poorly framed logic.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And I'm being generous when I say logic. Taylor Epperly said, "We don't know, but we know." Yeah, that's what we don't know, but we know. Yeah, Candace says that all the time. Shannon says she is humiliated and disrespected everyone she talks about with zero factual evidence. I disagree. She talks about Charlie Kirk. How has she humiliated him? How has she disrespected him? I don't think she is. I think she is doing, in her estimation, the best she can to try to serve him by trying to find out what really happened to him, because she is not buying the official story. She has a right to that point of view. And you said she has zero factual evidence. That's also not true. All right. People with this zero evidence thing. What evidence do any of you have that Brigitte Macron is a man? I mean, a woman. What's your evidence? Your evidence is that they said it. That's not evidence. Somebody saying something is not evidence. Evidence is something that cannot be denied. Well, it actually could be denied. They could put a whole bunch of stuff out and say, here's proof that she's a woman because there's a baby picture. And you could say, well, that's not evidence because that's not her. So both sides actually have evidence. You could say this is evidence that they're lying because that's not her in the picture. They could say this is evidence that we're telling the truth because it is me in the picture. And it becomes a he said, she said argument. So what makes it zero evidence on Candace's side, but is evidence on the other side? Shannon, unfortunately, you clearly have outed yourself as not a fan of Candace Owens, which you have a right to be. But please do not bring these 8th grade level illogical arguments to my comments. You got to bring something with more substance here if you want engagement.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Oh, please, said Big Perm. Yeah, Big Perm. Oh, please, thanks for the follow. Said they need to leave Candace alone. Well, that's not going to happen. She stomped on the hornet's nest. She asked for the attention. Candace asked for the smoke. So I'm not even going to say she needs to be left alone. She asked for it, and now she got it. This is just the game that she decided to sign up for. Nathan Don said, that's a lot of detail from my guy who doesn't watch movies, LOL. The Friday came out like 30 years ago. Jennifer Stewart said, I love you use Friday examples, my fave. Yes, one of the few movies that I have seen more than once. Jay Rocket said, bye, Felicia. Yes, exactly. Miss Mom said they could tie her up in courts and make it hurt. Absolutely. The longer this case goes, the more she got to pay her lawyers. And eventually she's going to run out of money before the Macrons run out of money. That's my point. T66 says, so if they don't dissolve it, then it becomes proof that they know it is factual. No, I didn't say that. Let me just be sure what you're referring to. First of all, who is they and what is it? So you're using these pronouns. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Let's assume that you mean they being the two people in this case, Candace and the Macrons. If they don't dissolve it, i.e. get the case dismissed, then it becomes proof that they know it is factual. No. I don't know if you're saying that that's what I'm saying or you just don't understand how lawsuits work. CJ Gator said, I understand the Kirk thing because that's her friend. Yeah, well, people know that Charlie Kirk and Candace were friends, but they still don't understand it. They don't like it, and they think that she's using him or doing him a disservice. So there's different ways of looking at it. C. Gator said, she got me interested in the case. Yeah, see, some people she got them interested in listening more, and some people she pissed off and got them hating her. This is what happens when you polarize. Rick Thomas said, judge should take the man, woman in chambers and have them drop their draws. Yeah, but then, see, how do they know that Candace knew? See, that's still the problem. The problem with that lawsuit is that it's not about whether she's a man or a woman. It's about did Candace know that she was a man or a woman? Well, specifically not a woman. Mary Ann Chavez, thanks for the share. Jennifer Stewart said, I literally live for the day they do discovery on this. You literally live for that day? Jennifer, literally? Connie Moore says, sorry I wasn't able to get here on time. I'm in late. What's going on? Talking about Candace Owens. G Black, thanks for joining. Christine said, the people in France have believed this for longer than Candace has been around. Exactly. So that's the reason why I'm Christine. You could maybe fill us in. Why the hell are they suing Candace Owens now that people in France have been talking about this forever? This is not some new story. T66, they'll just postpone long enough to smear, redact everything just like Epstein. That's not how this works. Marwa said, do I think his wife is a man? Do I think Brigitte Macron is actually a man, or do I think Brigitte Macron is a woman? I think Brigitte Macron is a man. I think he's a man. Now, I could be wrong, but from what I have seen, heard, and what I believe up to this point, with all the information we've gotten so far, I believe Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, is married to a man who is posing as a woman. That's what I believe. Melissa said they can't afford this loss, but Candace can't afford to let her babies grow up without her. That's also true. Well, the Macrons already lost. By the fact they even brought this lawsuit, they lost. Because they just got a bunch of people paying attention to a story that most people didn't care about. Erica McGrew said they just lost a lawsuit too. They won't go through with it. She should countersue. Well, she might, but they gotta. Well, actually, she could countersue now, technically. G Black, thanks for the heart. Leah, thank you for the lightning bolt. We're 134,000 likes, folks. Thank you, everybody. G Black, thank you for the go popular. Erica said they're banking on Trump to help with the lawsuit. Well, if he gets involved, then that's a whole other game. Tara Mills, thanks for the lightning bolt. Christopher Barker says she believes what she is saying. She will not settle out of court. Not necessarily true. That is a straw man framing.
Strawberry cheesecake.
There are plenty of times in liability cases and in civil cases where the side that knows that they are right still settles out of court because it saves you money to settle out of court for $5 million instead of going through with the trial and losing $20 million. Happens all the time. The P. Diddy case. He got sued by his ex-girlfriend Cassie. I believe she sued him for like $30 million. He settled out of court and gave her $20 million because he knew if he goes to court with this, first of all, it's going to cost me millions paying my lawyers. Then I'm probably going to lose and I'm going to have to pay her 30. I might as well just pay her 20, save myself the lawyer fees and just pay her the 20. It's cheaper to just do that and cut my losses. Companies do this all the time. Apple does it all the time. Amazon does it all the time. Microsoft does it all the time. They settle out of court even though they know they're not wrong because the case is just strong enough by their opponent that they could possibly lose. And the amount of money they got to spend on lawyers, the amount of time they got to spend on the case, and the amount that they would lose if they get a default judgment against them or a judgment against them is way more than they would have to spend if they would instead just pay the money. And they have insurance for all this stuff. They got money set aside just in case things like this happen. So Christopher Barker, your framing is off here. Knowing that you're accurate does not necessarily mean you're going to follow through with a lawsuit. Or you're going to follow through with a lawsuit. Fighting a lawsuit or filing a lawsuit costs a ton of money and is often not worth what you could possibly get by going through with it. Connie Moore said, I dealt with lawyers in court cases, and yes, they are expensive. Yes, they are expensive. Any of you got kids and you want your kids to have a guaranteed job, tell them to become a lawyer. Let's see. CJ Gator said he should have went overseas, SMH. But he couldn't go overseas. He was locked in Rikers Island. And where's he going to go overseas? He ain't got no money. He didn't have $1,000. How you going to go overseas? He don't know anybody. New York Nick said, my bank would sue people and keep postponing until they gave up suing the bank. Cash up front. Yeah, pretty much. That's how it works. Nick 89 said, I believe Candace. Fair enough. Katie says, does defamation have to be public? Asking as a small business. Yes, the defamation has to have been published. It has to be published, meaning it can't be he say, she say. It can't be hearsay. So it can't be I said something bad about Katie last week to one of our coworkers, and then our coworker told you I said it, and then you sue me for defamation. It has to be published, meaning you got to prove that I actually said it. So yes, it has to be public. Or it has to be published. Maybe it could be published in a private way, depending on who sees it. But generally, whatever you said or did has to be out there to be seen. Katie said, I'm loving this knowledge. Thank you. You're welcome. New York said, Candace will end up broke if it goes to court. Depending on how long the case goes, possibly. But she can make her money back, especially if she wins. If Candace goes to court and she has to pay all her money to her lawyer, she's going to make all that money back with the audience that she gains from winning the case. So she could be up, down, and up again, basically like Donald Trump. Leah, thank you for telling everybody to tap the screen. Bruce Holmes says she should have to pay. Well, are you the judge in the case? You can make that ruling, but they got to go to court. Everybody gets their day in court in America. New York Nick said 2 hours an hour looking at over 250 pages plus discovery. Oh, $2K an hour. I thought it said $2. Yeah, $2,000 an hour. Yeah, pretty much. The longer that the longer that case document, the more time the lawyers got to spend reading that shit. And you got to pay them for that. Every minute they spend, you got to pay. New York Nick said, Diddy paid probably $50 million. Yeah, he probably did. And Diddy had the money. And Diddy still got jail time. All the money he spent, he still got jail time. And they were trying to put him away for the rest of his life. He got, what did he get? 3 years, 5 years, 4 years, whatever he got. They were trying to give him like 40. That's what they asked for. That's what the prosecution asked for. So it's crazy out here. Stay out of court, everybody. That's my suggestion to everybody. Stay out of court. Even if you get into a civil dispute, settle it out of court. Go sit down with somebody, have a conversation, and use your communication skills. Don't end up in court because the amount of money you end up winning, a good amount of that going to your lawyers anyway. or just become a lawyer. Only people who should be in court are lawyers. Lawyers and people who couldn't stay out of court. New York Knicks says, ask Diddy how it worked out for him. Well, it did actually work out for Diddy because, again, they were trying to give him like 50 years. He got 4. So it actually did work out. And given what Diddy did over the years, what they got him for, I think he should have got nothing. But given the things that I've heard about Diddy, and I'm a fan of Diddy, the musician. I'm a fan of Diddy when he was Puff Daddy. Given all the things that I've heard about Diddy and what I have chosen to believe, him getting 4 years is a pretty fair outcome for him. And it could have been a whole lot worse, given what I've heard about Diddy over the years. He didn't get charged with a lot of things that I've heard about him. 4 years is actually a win for Diddy, is what I said. K.O. Hardy said, that's why you toss multiple charges against them, so they plead to the crime carrying a low penalty. Yes, exactly. So that's what they call the overcharging. So they'll charge you with a whole bunch of things and they'll ask for some exorbitant penalty. And it's all designed to shock and awe you so that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're trying to give me 10 years and 6 years of probation, even though it was you ran a red light or something stupid. And that's all designed to make you afraid. And now it's going to be 6 months to your court date. And in that whole 6 months, every day you wake up worrying about going to jail for 10 years. And the whole point is they want you to take that plea deal so that they don't have to go to trial, because they got to pay money to pay their people to go to trial too. And it costs them time too. So they want to get bloodless victories. That's what the legal system is trying to get, bloodless victories, or at least let me say more specifically, the state's attorney's office, the prosecutions. They're trying to get bloodless victories. They're trying to get convictions without having to go to trial. And that's through plea deals. And usually people take a plea when they can't afford a lawyer and or they may believe that they're going to be found guilty, or they know they're guilty, or they just don't want to deal with the shit. So they just take the plea deal if it's a good enough deal. But then that stuff goes on your record, and then you try to get a job, you try to apply for an apartment, you try to go take care of your kids. Now you got that on your record. So that's the trade-off. That's the reason why you stay out of court. J. Rocket said, now there's GoFundMe. Yeah, well, if Candace puts up a GoFundMe, she's going to make plenty of money. But she don't have to do that. Her GoFundMe is her show. So the way she gets her GoFundMe is by literally publishing content on her show. People put in donations to support her. Sarah Gonzalez said, you do know about that story? Yeah, that story was crazy. T66 said, I did a year and a half until my court date just for it to be dismissed when I asked for evidence. Yeah, see, that's what they do. They keep you in jail when you're trying to get a court for when you're trying to get the trial. And then it turns out they ain't got shit, but they make you sit and wait the whole time. So you end up paying with your time, which is basically your life, in order to clear your name, which is why, again, I will say for the 10th time here today, folks, stay out of court. Mother and Pearl said, that's so sad. Yes. You also watch that documentary. It's on Netflix. Khalif Browder. Miss Mom of 3 said, God knows what happened to him in here. Well, he talked about it. Watch the documentary. He talks about it. It's on Netflix. So a bunch of you said that's heartbreaking. Khalif Browder. His name is Khalif. Khalief. His last name is Browder. Just look up Browder. Brower. Look it up on Netflix. You'll see it. Let me pull up on Netflix. So, because I think it's just called the Khalif Browder story. Because I remember seeing this. It's about 2019. I saw this documentary. Brow. It's called Time, the Khalif Browder story. It looks like this. Time, the Khalif Browder story. This is on Netflix. This is what it looks like. And I remember, I listened to this. There's only 6 episodes. I listened to this about 6 years ago. And it's the system, the island, the Bing, the witness, injustice for all, and the afterlife is what this story is about. This is a crazy story. It's crazy that happened. Like, that happens to people all the time. He just got a story made out about his situation, but it happens to other people who we never know. Shaker Assault said, our legal system is fucked. Something similar happened to me as a business is infuriating. I agree. I agree with all of that. And yes, the legal system is trash. Unless you're a prosecutor or a lawyer, or a judge, the legal system is not good for you. I see Kim Kardashian is trying to become a lawyer. Who the hell is going to have Kim Kardashian as their lawyer? Who wants Kim Kardashian to be their lawyer? She's already like in her mid 40s, so is she going to all of a sudden become good at being a lawyer? Like, please. Now, what she can do is draw attention to you because she draws attention. So if she decides, hey, I want to draw attention to this guy, he's in jail, or this woman's in jail and shouldn't be in jail, she should do that. She's just become an advocate. She's trying to get a law degree as if she's trying to pass the bar exam. She can't pass the bar exam because clearly well, first of all, she hasn't studied enough. She didn't go to school for this shit. And she might not be that smart. I mean, these things may all be true. And she's trying to become a lawyer. Again, who the hell wants Kim Kardashian representing her? I think she's trying to get the lawyer thing just so she has a feather in her cap to say, hey, I have a law degree as a way of legitimizing her intelligence. I think she's barking up the wrong tree. And instead, she should just be an advocate and use what she has, which is her influence, to draw attention to people who are in messed up legal situations and let people who with actual legal skills do the legal work. What the hell are you getting a law degree for? I think she's getting that for her vanity. And I don't think it's a good idea for her because, again, what are you going to do with a law degree? Are you going to go get clients? And if so, who? Who the hell will hire Kim Kardashian as their lawyer? Anyway, Night Owl said, I got charged with weapons in a motor vehicle for having 4 wooded spoons on the back seat of my car. That's interesting. What happened with that case? New York said, big bank versus little bank. Big bank wins because the little bank taps out. Yes, that's pretty much how it goes. Crystal Lickert said, that's crazy how it all works. Yes, it is crazy. KO said, drains your pocketbook. Try suing the Fed. Same thing happens. Uncle Sugar got deep pockets. I think you mean Uncle Sam. But yes, you're right. It's hard to sue big entities because they'll just drain you until you ain't got no money left. Yes, Mike, you got it right. That's close enough. Khalif Browder. Courtney, thank you for the lightning bolts. Lisa Ann said, they left that kid in jail for 3 years, over $1,000. He had no family. He did have family. His family was broke. That's the reason people have a problem with the cash bail system, because if you don't have money, you can't afford justice and you can't afford freedom. So you got to sit in jail just because your broke ass couldn't come up with $1,000. That's how it is. That's what happened to him. Had he had the $1,000, he still would have had to go to court, back and forth to court for 3 years, but he would have been at home, going to school, doing whatever he was doing. But because he didn't have the money, he had to sit in Rikers Island instead of being at home. Stacey said, if it gets to it, we GoFundMe for Candace. Well, even better, Candace could just do a show and have that as the GoFundMe. Jake Lanker said on the flip side, major corporations will also just settle out for low amounts. Yes, they will. They settle all the time because they don't want to go to court and fight. And also, you got to remember that there are lawyers out there who will take cases on contingency, meaning I will represent you in court against whoever, and you don't have to pay me. I'll just take my cut out of the money that you win. So there's a lot of lawyers who their entire business is based on that. They just represent people in cases like injury cases, workers' compensation, all types of stuff. And they don't ask you to pay them up front because they're pretty sure they're going to win. They just go through the case. And if they have to go to trial, they do every now and then. Most of the time, they end up settling out of court. And then let's say you get $25,000 in a settlement. The lawyer says, all right, give me $8,000. You keep the 17. So you made 17. He got 8. And the company that they sued, they got a whole fund for this stuff. They got $1 million set aside for this kind of shit that happen all the time. So that's kind of not a win for the big company, but it's a win-win for you and the lawyer. And the lawyer just made $8,000. They had to take no money from you up front. Good deal for them. Now, it doesn't mean every time they do it, they win, but they win enough to make a living. KB said, I cringe when I see my lawyer's bill. Yeah, so you don't want to have a lawyer's bill. That's the point. Michelle said her husband has lots of money, but not as much as the Macrones. Yeah, I forgot about her husband having money too. But she still said financial hardship because, again, that money could be going to her kid's college fund. Now she got to spend it on lawyers. Tony Chopper said that happened to me when I was 17. I pleaded out to get out for something I didn't even do. It happens to people every day, Tony. So it happened to you. What I explained to you all, what Tony just said here. He took a plea for something that he didn't even do, and now that's on his record. Ruther Durant, thank you for the share. T66 said our justice system is absolute trash, guilty till proven innocent. Yes, if you don't have money, you are guilty till proven innocent. That is exactly how it works. Brooke Denise said it won't go to trial. We'll see. Christopher Barker said it's an alibi. What are you referring to? Brooke said, I agree. It'll be interesting if it does. It's going to be even more than interesting if it does. I don't think it's going to. Well, actually, I don't know what's going to happen because I don't know enough about the Macrones. Linda Golden, thanks for the follow. Katie said, I'm so ready for some emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
New York Knicks, thanks for the follow. Filthy Mind Games. Oh, I lost my spot. Filthy Mind Game say Isaac Wright Jr. falsely convicted as a drug kingpin, did 7 years, studied law, and got exonerated. You heard about that story? Didn't they do a movie on him? Goku, thanks for the follow. J Rocker said, wow, landscaping still going in Florida. Oh, it's more than landscaping. It's land building. Not land building, excuse me. Building. Construction is what's going on in Florida. I got the window open. That's why y'all can hear stuff. Jessica Can said, why did the Macrones offer her money before and now they are suing Candace is not wrong? I don't know what money you're talking about. Danny Dougie said, the Macrones are embarrassed and trying to prove it, but they need a doctor who has no horse in the race. Yeah, for the case, they're going to need an objective doctor. They can't use their own doctor because their own doctor's going to lie for them. Danny said, where's the Bridgette's supposed brother? I believe he passed away. Danny said, how do you feel about Charlie Kirk's wife? What about her? Jessica said, let Candace choose the doctor to inspect Brigitte. Well, the court is probably going to choose a doctor, and that doctor has to be an objective third party. Dolphin said, I thought the Macrones were challenging the claim for taking her brother's name, not the claim of trans. What they're claiming is defaming. They're claiming defamation. All of that is part of their evidence. Annie said, who cares if they're a woman or a man, to each their own? Generally speaking, Annie, I agree with you. As long as they're an adult, you could be, if you want to walk around as a woman, even though you were born as a man, fine. If that's what you want to do. And at the same time, if you win an election under the premise that I'm a man and here's my wife, and that's not actually a woman, the public deserves to know that. So as a public figure, it's a different way that you're measured. Christy, member level 14, congrats. Marky Man said, what's to stop them from coming up with a DNA test? They will probably have a DNA test that is court mandated, Marky Man, which means the judge says, here's the person who's going to administer the test. You need to do the test right now, and we're going to get the results coming straight to us. And that's how we're going to know, so that nobody can play around with the DNA. That's probably how they would do it. But again, that still doesn't prove defamation. Defamation is not Candace Owens told a lie or that Candace Owens was wrong. Defamation is Candace Owens knew the truth and told a lie. You have to prove both. Or she didn't care about the truth. And I'm not sure I don't think they can prove it. Given the information we have right now, I don't think they can prove that. Mikey said, I asked only to see what Google would respond with. Okay, well, that's not a quality question. I mean, the whole point of a lawsuit is not what Google says. The point of the lawsuit is what's the frame of this lawsuit for the plaintiff, and then what's the frame for the defendant, and which I already explained. Gemini can't really give Candace's side because the lawsuit only gives the Macrone's side. So you only got half of the story, so to speak, to ask Gemini about. What can Gemini do other than give you the side that you gave it? You supplied it with a poor question. T66 said, need to keep a backup tie in case one doesn't work out. What does that mean? Tara Mills said, absolutely love the way you think so logically, and I'm learning so much. Well, I'm glad to hear it. We'll go about 10 more minutes here, folks. I'm running out of battery. Night Owl said, Candace Owens has always been truthful in her investigations, honest information. Some say, and some say the exact opposite, but I get what you're saying, Night Owl. Tim Rockwell said, I believe everything I see on the internet as long as I agree with it. Yeah, pretty much. We all do. Well, that's the same way we all think. That's a good point, though. That's pretty much how it goes.
Funny words, Magic Man.
Mikey said, I don't care either way about the case. I just thought the response was interesting. They said that Candace's claims are baseless. Yes, but Mikey, you got to understand, you fed it the lawsuit that was written by the Macrone's lawyer. What do you think is that's exactly what's supposed to happen? If you only read that lawsuit and don't hear anything Candace has to say, you would think that Candace is a crackpot, crazy person who's just making up lies for no reason. That's what the lawsuit is designed to make you think. It's frame control. And a good lawyer is pretty good at controlling the frame. The problem is the other side has a lawyer too, and they haven't spoken yet. Nathan Don said, I'm watching that miniseries right now. Thank you for the suggestion. You're welcome. Dolphin said, Candace is using that guy's book for a lot of her info. Macrones didn't sue that author. Yes, exactly. Which makes the whole thing look kind of fishy because that book's been out. They didn't sue him for defamation. I think they tried to do other things to him, but they didn't sue him for defamation. Tony Chapa said, some people say the same thing about Michelle Obama. Yeah, that's a funny joke they had running about Michelle. I don't think it's true, but I haven't heard anybody go really deep on it. Nick, thank you for the lightning bolt. Nick said, Trump will not help Candace. Yeah, I don't think so either. Jay Rocker said, that's why a lot of SA victims settle instead of going to court, then sign an NDA. Yeah, because they, first of all, get paid, and then they can't talk anymore. And if you're going to charge sexual assault, you got to prove it. It's very hard to prove those things, and you got to take the stand and you got to talk about it, which might traumatize you for having to talk about it. And then the other side's going to come up there and try to make you look bad. Remember the Kobe case? All Kobe's lawyers are going to do, which is what they're supposed to do. They were going to make that woman. Remember the woman accused Kobe Bryant of sexual assault in Colorado? They were going to make that woman look like a complete slut. That's what they were going to do. They're going to make her look like a whore. And because you're that, no, Kobe didn't have to force himself on you. You were very loose with your badge, and you were giving it up to whoever wanted it. And look, you did it with this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, and then you just did it with Kobe. They would have made her look terrible. And she knew she was going to have to go through that because her lawyers told her, if we do this, you got to get on the stand and you have to testify and you got to go into cross-examination. Kobe's lawyers are going to rip you apart and make you like the biggest whore in history. Do you want to do this? And she realized she didn't want to do it. So she took the payout from Kobe. She signed that NDA and she disappeared. That's what happened. That's why SA charges are so hard to prove, because the alleged victim, has to go on the stand and they got to go into cross-examination. And that man's lawyer is going to go after you. They're going to go for the jugular and make you look terrible. Holly Harder, thanks for the follow. Danny Love said, my son is getting his doctorate in law, corporate law. Yeah, he'll always have work to do as long as he's any good. Roseanne says, not only about if Bridget is a man or woman, I think she is a man. There are worse accusations to be made. Well, it's not even about that. It's about that Candace know the truth. Again, how do they prove that Candace knew the truth? They had to show the stuff that they sent to Candace and prove that this proves that Candace knew the truth. How do they prove that? There's no answer to the question, which is why I think this is a terrible case for them. The Macrones, I think this is a bad idea for them to have even pursued this. Doc said, I may have missed it. Is the reason why she is jumping on this? Did he make laws against trans? No, she's jumping on it because she got interested. Seems to me she just got interested and she decided to talk about it. This is kind of what investigative journalists do. They find an interesting thing and they chase it down. That's why she did it. Christopher Barker said, that's what I mean when I said if she believes she will go to court, she wins, she recoups money. Oh, you're saying like she countersued and just got her money back. If she wins, she definitely would countersue to get all her legal fees back, because there'd be a lot of fees. This is $1 million case for Candace Owens. Nick said, different case. Do you think the Texas case with the Mello Metcalf take a plea deal for 5-10 years? I don't think so. I think they're going to try to fight it. And I think that'll be an interesting case. When does it go to court? These cases take so long that it's so long between when it happens and they actually go to court, we forget about it. But we'll see. Oh, J Rocker said, for GoFundMe, I'm at the Netflix case. Oh, you mean the kid who went to jail? Well, the thing is, I don't remember what year this was that it happened. I don't know if GoFundMe was even out. And also, it's not like he has some big following. They would have had to get somebody to like get on that to push it, like Kim Kardashian. Like that's what she should do. Kim Kardashian should just sponsor people's GoFundMes and get them money. That's what she should do. Good Free said Jay-Z produced it. Yeah, I know about that. I know Jay-Z was the executive producer of the documentary. Sheila said Kim isn't all that smart. I won't argue against that. I don't know Kim Kardashian. Actually, no, let me not say any more than that. I don't know Kim Kardashian, but maybe she isn't that smart, which is why she is what she is and she's not a lawyer. Jay Rocket said her dad was pretty good. Yeah, maybe that's why she wants to do it. She wants to honor her dad and become a lawyer. Christopher Barker said she will have a show like Nancy Grace. She could do that right now. She don't need to get a law degree. They'll give her a show right now. She calls them. She always says she just needs something that she thinks is important. I think she's doing it for vanity. Yeah, it's her intellectual vanity, whatever amount of it she has. But why is she trying to be a lawyer? Who's hiring Kim Kardashian as a lawyer? Holly Harder said amen. Nick89 said Jasmine Crockett, law degree. Yes, she does have a law degree. And I know a lot of people with law degrees. I've worked with a lot of lawyers. And a lot of lawyers who are actually very smart people. And there's a lot of people with law degrees. I don't think Jasmine Crockett is dumb. I think Jasmine Crockett is playing a role for her career. She's doing what she got to do to get what she wants. It's her choice. Night Owl said, that case is still open. I was 24 years old. Lawyers dead. Oh, damn. Okay. Nick said, do you think there are any lawyers out there that would do Candace's case pro bono? No, because there's no money to be made. She's just in defense. Defense is not, you don't usually do defense pro bono, especially somebody who has money. Candace Owens has some money. I don't know how much, but she got something. Higher Harder said 50% contingency for essay and suing the state and everyone involved. Yeah, it's crazy. Marky Man said, how much does TikTok pay for 1 million views? It's not black and white like that. Depends on what ads got run, what gifts you got. Depends on several different factors. It's not a black and white. There's no black and white answer to the question. Carla in Indiana said, finally made it. Good morning. Hey, Carla, good to see you. New York Nick said, the easiest way for a big corporation is to have them sign an NDA we never find out. Pretty much. Karina 23, good morning. Nick said, I'm here for it. Yes. Tammy Shom Day Carr. Thanks for the follow. Carl said, did anyone mention the case in the UK where the journalist won her appeal about calling her a man? I didn't hear about that. Tim Rockwell said, you have a great show. Really enjoy watching. Having a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you, Tim. Sheila said, question, what's up with Candace and Erica Kirk? Candace has mentioned Erica and said that she has made it clear she's not implicating Erica Kirk. She implicated TPUSA, the people who ran it before Charlie passed. Erica did not get involved in TPUSA until Charlie was dead. So all of Candace's smoke for TPUSA does not include Erica because she wasn't part of the organization. I've heard her say that at least 3 times. Gustavo Antonio Hugo, thanks for the follow. TKD Rosie said, Kim is a lawyer. No, she isn't. Keep dreaming. She is not a lawyer. She hasn't even passed the bar. You can't be a lawyer without passing the bar exam. She tried to pass the bar in California. She failed. So she's not a lawyer. And even if she did pass the bar, who the hell was hiring Kim Kardashian as a lawyer? TKD Rosie said, innocent program and first step program. What does that mean? New York Nick said, June 1st is the court date for the self-defense case in Texas. Help or hurt Mello 1 year later. It's not till June 1st. Yeah, now imagine if that kid didn't get bail. He couldn't bail out. He would have had to sit in jail this whole time. Now, because he got bail, he can be at home. But now, people who don't have money, your court case is a year after the date you got arrested, and you can't bail out because you can't afford it, or you're denied bail. You got to sit in jail the whole time, and you're not even found guilty yet, but you got to sit in jail, which is kind of crazy on one level. At the same time, it makes sense because remember that whole thing in North Carolina where the dude stabbed that Ukrainian woman? That guy, he was the type of person who, if he gets arrested and he has a court case, he should be held in jail. So the judge gets to decide, do you get to bail out or do you not get to bail out? And they do it based on the circumstances, based on your past history and the arguments of the prosecution. Even Diddy, when Diddy got his conviction in the summertime, his lawyer said, let Diddy out and we'll come back for sentencing if he gets time. Let him out for these 3 months before sentencing. And the judge said, well, what does the prosecution think? The prosecution said, don't let him out. And there was an argument between the defendants and the prosecution. They both went to the judge. The judge said, let me think about it. They came back to court and the judge said, Diddy, no, you can't get out. You got to sit in jail until I sentence you. So that's the way it goes. It becomes a judgment call of the judge. This is why I will say for the 15th time here today, everybody, stay out of court. She always said, do I think Erica is giving Candace information? I don't know about that. I never thought about it. I would say for now, no. Lisa Ann said, I'm telling Kim on you. LOL. Yeah, what's she going to do? So everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. What we will do, I'm going to decide right now. Friday, how many of you are going to be around Friday morning? If you're going to be around Friday morning, put yes. If you're not going to be around, put no. When I say around, I mean here at 8 a.m. Eastern on Friday. How many of you will be here 8 a.m. Eastern Friday on a normal Friday schedule? How many of you will not be around on Friday on a normal Friday schedule? Tomorrow we are off. I promise tomorrow we're off. There will be no live stream tomorrow. But on Friday, okay, Friday I'll be here then. All right, we'll do Friday. So Friday, I'm just looking at my schedule. We will be here Friday. Friday, I might start at 8:15. I'm just looking at my schedule because I know I have a call Friday morning. Let's see. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. Yes, Friday we'll be here. So we'll be live on Friday. We will be live on Friday. Friday, I might start at 8:15 or 8:30 because I have a prior engagement. But I will be here Friday morning. 8 to 10 is the normal time. Again, it might start a little bit later. My battery's about to die over here. So I'm letting you know we will be here Friday, off tomorrow. So everybody have an amazing Thanksgiving. Tomorrow, hopefully you got plenty to be thankful for. And we will see everybody Friday. Power Presence Protocol. You want to get into my coaching program that we're focused on right now is the Power Presence Protocol. That is your discipline, confidence, aura, energy, communication, inner work. The work done in quiet, all brought to light, all communicated through one signal that we call presence. When your presence is strong, you close more deals, you get more yeses, you make a bigger imprint, more people listen to you, more people follow your leadership. Even before you say a single word, we call that power presence. Get into the mastermind with me as your coach at that link right there, and you'll get this manual once you're in the mastermind. You only have to buy it. I won't even sell it to you. I'll just send it to you. But the link in my profile takes you to the Power Presence Protocol. And thank you to the moderators. Thank you to the people liking and live. We did 167,000 a day. Thanks for the commentators. Thanks for the detractors, people who agreed, disagreed, those who shared. Thank you for the gifts, those who gave gifts. I can't see them as I'm looking at the screen, but I see them sometimes popping up. So thank you, everybody, for the gifts. Everybody have an amazing Thanksgiving. I will see you all on Friday, November 28th, where we will be live again. Topic to be determined as usual. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. I will see you all in 2 days. Work on your game. Enjoy your Wednesday.